Okay, let's call the meeting to order. It's 6:30 p.m., July 14th, 2020. This is the Charlton Board of Selectmen meeting. Welcome, everyone. So I'm going to quickly go over the agenda for tonight. We're going to start with the approval of the minutes from June 23rd. Then we'll then have community relations, announcements, and open forum. We'll also have appointments and resignation. We have under that, we have an appointment, the Charlton Auxiliary Police Unit, and the second would be Director of Assessing and Transition. Moving on, scheduled appointments, 6:45 public hearing, Keg LLC, alteration of premises. I need to make this bigger. 7 p.m. Civilian Traffic Commission, discussion of traffic concerns. Under new business, item number 1, we have review application for reduced frontage lot special permit, Sleepy Hollow Estates. Number 2 is the Board of Selectmen members appoint to committees. Hopefully we all had a chance to look those over. Number 3, financial discussion regarding debt exclusion for public safety building. Number 4, award of propane and oil bid. Number 5, Economic Development Commission discussion. 6, Board of Selectmen Town Administrator Goals and Objectives Workshop discussion. And then we'll move on to old business, Town Council, RFP, the timeline, a quick old home day update, which I think we'll be able to pass over because I saw what I'm going to be reading under announcements. It'll be self-explanatory in a minute. Board of Selectmen committee reports, the Public Safety Building Capital Campaign Steering Committee will be reporting. And then we have the Board of Selectmen policy review, Andrew's report, the other business unknown at time of posting, which David had just mentioned, that will be one item. And then our next meeting announcement is our next regular meeting will be July 28th, 2020, and it will, like this one, start at 6:30 p.m. And then we do have executive sessions on for tonight. How did I do, David?
I'm the wrong person to ask, but if you want my opinion, I think you did a great job.
All right, so let's move on to the what? Let's move on to approving the minutes of the regular meeting dated June 23rd, 2020.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as presented this evening, say, oh, we got to do roll call vote. All right, this is in no particular order. Patsy, I see you first.
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
All right, chair votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. Let's see. So the next item is community relations, announcements, and open forum. So I'm going to read over, we have quite a few actually. These haven't changed, Andrew, right in the last half hour because I printed it.
Oh.
All right. Bear with me, guys. All right, so announcements for our meeting July 14, 2020. We have a planning board opening. As a result of the town election, the planning board has 1 full-time member opening and 1 alternate member opening on their board. Yep, I just skipped right to the end. The planning board is responsible for guiding and reviewing matters related to physical growth and development of the town of Charlton, being governed by the federal, state, and state statutes, local zoning bylaws, subdivision rules and regulations. The board also administrates the Scenic Roads Act. Anyone interested should submit a letter of interest to the Board of Selectmen, 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass. 01507, or email Mary Devlin at mary.devlin@townofcharlton.net. Next item on announcements, Board of Assessor opening. There is 1 opening for a member of the Board of Assessors who are responsible to value real and personal property fairly and accurately in accordance with Massachusetts general laws and the regulations of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Massachusetts Department of Revenue, which governs such activities. Also in accordance with such laws, rules, and regulations to administer motor vehicle excise, boat excise, exemption and abatement programs, and to address questions, any concerns of property owners and the general public in an efficient and courteous fashion. Anyone interested should submit a letter of interest to the Board of Selectmen, again, 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass. 01507, or once again, email Mary Devlin at mary.devlin@townofcharlton.net. So Charlton Old Home Day. We have an announcement Kathleen Walker would like us to read. It was with a deep sense of regret that we are announcing the cancellation of Old Home Day for this year. The committee has been discussing this for months now and have finally decided that it's in the best interest of the residents to cancel. The challenges with protecting all of us from COVID-19 are too great to overcome. We are aware that the state of Massachusetts is doing better, but we are not completely confident that the virus will be all but eliminated by September 7th. In the off chance that even one person could become ill, it is simply not worth it to continue. However, we are already looking forward to next year and plan to have the biggest and best Old Home Day ever. Please consider joining us at our January meeting on the 28th at 4 p.m. at the Senior Center to plan for 2021. And that was submitted by Kathleen Walker for the Charlton Old Home Day Committee. I know, is Kathleen on by chance? Did you want to say anything?
No, I believe they have a concurrent
Meeting tonight? Okay.
tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew. All right, so the next item on, well, first let me ask if there's anyone in the general public who would like to speak at open forum. The one thing I would ask, if you're going to, if you were joining us today and you wanted to make a comment regarding the public safety building that we're going to be discussing later, that I will be allowing folks from the general public to make statements after the presentation and after the board members had to chime in with some comments and suggestions. So if you wouldn't mind holding off until then, if you were planning on addressing that particular issue at this time, it would be appreciated. So that being said, is there anyone else there who would like to speak from the general public? You may simply unmute and announce your name and your address. And I would ask that you keep it within, 1 to 3 minutes. Andrew, do you see anyone, or I don't hear anyone?
Nope, I don't hear anybody. Hold on, let's see. Somebody
Yeah.
chat function. Yeah, somebody asking whether or not they want to discuss during one of the items on the agenda.
So later on, okay. All right. Any other community relation announcements? We can move on, right?
Yes.
All right, so the next item on the agenda, we're under appointments and resignation. The first item is an appointment, Charlton Auxiliary Police Unit. Andrew, take it away.
Attached is a letter from Police Chief Maxfield requesting that Savannah Demetrius be appointed to the Charlton Auxiliary Police Unit. Ms. Demetrius joined the Charlton Police Department Explorer program in 2018, where she quickly moved up the ranks. Once attaining the age of 21, she continued her commitment to the program as an advisor. Ms. Demetrius has multiple state and junior Olympic small bore rifle championships and has competed at prestigious national matches at Camp Perry. Past year, she qualified for the U.S. Olympic trials, but instead opted to attend the Municipal Police Training Committee Reserve Intermittent Academy at her own expense. Ms. Demetrius is a graduate of the Massachusetts State Police Student Trooper Program and is currently studying criminal justice at Holyoke Community College. With her training and experience, she would be a tremendous asset to the Charlton Auxiliary Police Unit. I would agree with Maxfield and recommend the board make the appointment.
The wishes of the board?
So moved, and welcome to Ms. Demetrius.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, hearing none, let's do this once again by roll call vote. David?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Bill?
Oh, sorry.
Aye.
Patsy?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so it passes. It's unanimous. Congratulations. All right.
Very good.
Yes, indeed. All right, next item is the appointment of Director of Assessing in Transition. Andrew, it's all yours again.
So as you know, the board approved the hiring of a Director of Assessing in Transition. One application was received from Kathleen Stanley. An interview was held by Human Resource Director Lynn Dyer, Director of Assessing Deb Ciccarini, Board Assessor Chairman Nancy Landry, and myself. We are recommending that the board appoint Kathy Stanley as the Director of Assessing in Transition at $40.17 per hour, which is an R12 level 5 with 10 years of equivalent experience. On the retirement of the current Director of Assessing, she would assume the full duties of
So moved and welcome to Ms. Stanley.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I may, and obviously a welcome to the new person in transition. But I would like to, again, just publicly state, because I don't think we can say it enough, how big of a loss Deb is. I understand people retire and they all have their own plans, but she meant a lot to this town, what she achieved, what she did, and then those are, and I do wish the best for the new person, but those are going to be big shoes to fill. She did a wonderful job. Oh, and she's here.
Thank you very much. You're bringing tears to my eyes already. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a tremendous journey, you know, as I said, and I'll always be here to help, and my heart is always here anyway. So thank you. Thank you, guys.
Deb, thank you for everything you've done. Can I ask the timing? Are you going to be around to work with this person?
Yes, I will be around, and hopefully the timing will allow Kathy to shadow with me, you know, for the 2 weeks anyway. That was my goal, was to hopefully make this as seamless as possible. And, you know, looking out for the town, this is always a very busy time of year. We're juggling an awful lot in this town, and, you know, to bring her up to speed, we hit gold with her. I'll tell you that. You're in great hands.
I like hearing that from you. Thank you.
Yeah, you are.
That's very reassuring. Thank you, Deb.
Okay.
Any other comments? Okay.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
And vote, we good?
Yeah, take a vote on that.
Okay, yep, never mind, I thought it was someone else. All right, so Patsy,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
and I vote aye, so it's unanimous. And again, thank you to everyone involved with moving this forward, and thank you again to Deb, of course. All right, so we are, whoa, what time do you have, Andrew?
I got 6:43, so you got 2 minutes before the scheduled appointment at 6:45.
Right, gotcha.
I don't know if you want to skip to number 1 on new business.
Let's see.
Got to handle that.
Sure, why don't we do that? So because we have to start the other item that we're about to discuss on time, we can't start early. We're going to skip to item number 1 on new business, which is review application for reduced frontage lot special permit, Sleepy Hollow Estates. Andrew?
The planning board has provided the board with a copy of a special permit submitted by Sleepy Hollow Estates, 104 Town Farm Road, Brookfield, Mass. For approval of 2 reduced frontage lots containing approximately 32.96 acres for the purposes of building a single-family home on 1 lot and leaving the remaining farm property with a single-family home. The application also calls for an increase of acreage on lot 8R to a total of 4.196 acres. The property is located on Davidson and A. Young Roads, Assessor's Map 22, Block A, Lot 24, and is in an agricultural district. You're asked to review, and should you wish to provide comment, we will let the planning board know.
All right. So this is new, I think, I know, Patsy, because of your experience on the planning board, you're well aware of what's going on. But Steve, I know, did you have any questions, being the newest member of the board?
No, not at all. I've been following it a little bit. I think I'm familiar with it.
Anyone else? I know kind of been on this. Any comments? And so if we have any, yeah,
I mean, I think Charlton has very big lots compared to other towns to kind of keep the to keep us from having, kind of house creep, if that makes any sense. So what they're trying to do here is they have 32 acres and they don't have the maximum, the minimum amount of frontage. So whenever, if I, on the planning board, I think that in the back of your mind, you think common sense. If they were trying to do this on a 3-acre lot, you might think something different, but something so big for one house, it satisfies the reason why we have that much frontage in the first place. So, I think it's good to go. It should be sitting in the planning boards. Well,
All right. Well, thank you for that. We all appreciate it. All right, and if there aren't any other comments, Andrew, I think we can back up to the scheduled appointments because it's now 6:45. So the public hearing, Porter Keg LLC, alteration of premises. You want to read the memo and then I'll open the hearing?
Attached is a request for alteration of premise from Quarter Keg LLC, DBA The Quarter Keg Pub, 443 Worcester Road, Charlton, Mass, seeking to add 11,795 square feet of outdoor space for dining and outdoor sand volleyball court to their existing liquor license. All necessary paperwork has been completed. The chairman should open the public hearing by reading the notice as placed in the paper and sent to the abutters. Should the board approve the request, we will send the completed application with the board's approval to the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission for final approval. I recommend the board approve the request, and I will read the public hearing notice. Notice of public hearing. The Charlton Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, July 14th, 2020 at 6:45 p.m. to act on a request of alteration of premise for liquor license. Alteration of premise for liquor license submitted by Quarter Keg LLC, DBA The Quarter Keg Pub, 443 Worcester Road, Charlton, Mass, to add 11,795 square feet of outdoor space for dining and outdoor sand volleyball court. Anyone wishing to be heard on this matter should appear in writing at the time and date submitted or submit concerns in writing. The meeting to be held to the public via Zoom with video participation with the link provided.
All right, and I will declare the public hearing now opened at 6:47. And if there's anyone here to speak regarding this matter, they should unmute themselves and again, identify yourself and address and begin speaking.
Me as the petitioner, or are you asking for?
This
Hello?
is, yeah,
Okay, my name is Mike DuPont. These are my partners, Dave Savoy, Mike Savoy, Pollyanna Farias, and I have one shy, one hiding, John Langelier. So I think you guys summarized it pretty well. It's not much of a change of use than historically there's been. We're just trying to make it safer and more defined. Feel free to ask me any questions.
okay. Thank you for that, and thank you for being here tonight, obviously, to answer these questions. Do we have any questions from anyone in attendance? Andrew, are you seeing any? I'm not.
I'm not seeing anybody in the chat function, but
We'll wait a minute, maybe. 2 seconds. Any comments while we're waiting? Any comments from any of the board members?
Karen, I would just send a thank you to them. Another opportunity for the residents of Charlton to have some place to go, get good food, play some volleyball.
Absolutely. Looking forward.
I'd like to add all the work you guys are doing, and you must be inside now, I'm thinking, and so we're getting
You get a little sneak peek.
preview of what it's going to look like. Good.
It looks a lot
It
brighter.
looks great.
Try to maintain the tradition and modernize it a little bit and open up the floor plan. Mr. Metskis has been working with us and terrific on making us have a new and safe design. Knock on wood, we're almost finished, guys.
All right, good luck to you.
Yeah.
Madam Chairperson, I'd make a motion to, to close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you, Bill. So we have a second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those, well, roll call vote. Patsy?
aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The hearing is now closed.
Madam Chairperson, I'd like to make a motion to approve the request.
Second.
Oh, all right, we have a motion and a second to approve the request as submitted, right? So any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor will roll call vote. Patsy?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
And David?
Aye.
All right, and chair votes aye, and motion carries. It's unanimous. Again, thank you, congratulations, and we look forward to seeing you in person soon. All
Thanks, guys. Can't wait till you're here. I hope everyone
Good
loves
job.
it. Thanks.
right,
Good
have a
luck.
good night.
Thank you.
We're moving right along here. The next item on the agenda will be the Civilian Traffic Commission discussion on traffic concerns. Andrew?
So at the board's June 23rd, 2020 meeting, David Smolsky from 189 Center Depot Road was present via Zoom to discuss his concerns with the safety of his road and others. Mr. Smolsky recently resigned from the Civilian Traffic Commission. He said that the Civilian Traffic Commission had submitted 2 letters to the board in October. We were asked to put these 2 letters on tonight's meeting as well as invite the Civilian Traffic Commission and Police Chief Maxfield. Please see attached. A little background information for the board. Transition in the office was taking place around October 1st, 2019, when the previous town administrator was leaving and the acting town administrator was coming in. At the board's January 14, 2020 meeting, these letters were discussed and were asked to contact Mass Highway District 3 office to see if they could look at the intersections for Stafford Street and Center Depot Road, Stafford Street and Brookfield Road, and Dresser Hill Road, Sandersondale Road, and Schoolhouse Road, and provide traffic calming measures for consultation on strategies to change drivers' mindsets and behaviors. A response was received from Mass DOT in reference to this request on March 27, 2020. Attached and also received during the COVID-19 pandemic. This response was emailed to the board as well. I've had discussions with both Police Chief Maxfield and DPW Superintendent Jerry Foskett. The recommendations of Mass DOT at these intersections have been implemented since. Also attached is an email from Chairman Spiewak received from a resident with concerns of traffic on Masonic Home Road.
All right, thank you. I'll now open this up. Andrew, do you have any more comments before I open it up to the board?
No, I'll leave it to you guys.
All right.
Chair,
Yes, David.
if I may, I have a few pages of notes I'd like to kind of run through real quick.
Sure.
At our last meeting, there was a reason I had actually asked us to not have that discussion. I don't believe in rushing into things without giving the board an opportunity to perform due diligence and do its homework. And I wanted every member to have time to refresh our memory, pull documentation, talk to members of the commission, et cetera, so we can be more prepared, in my opinion, to have an intelligent conversation. That night, a lot of data was provided, and I think there were some pictures painted that might not be entirely accurate. And so I did make phone calls, talk to people, pull records, and I want to share that just because I want to make sure that everyone who was here that night, and especially anyone who is watching, is clear, so that we can clear up any misinterpretations and if anyone took anything the wrong way. I think to Andrew's point, what he touched on, it's important to also give a little history. So the Civilian Traffic Commission, the originator of that idea was the interim police chief, Chief Charette, who was the Southbridge police chief. And the letter he sent to the board is on file and it's readily available to anyone at request. And per his request of the formation of this commission and per his guidance, the directive was purely advisory and was to be a repository of ideas. Never did he suggest that the commission should have any authority or the recommendations would have any binding effect on the town. The reason I say that is because it would be illegal for this board to abdicate any authority to a committee, and he knew that when he asked for that commission to be put together. Further, Chief Charette's letter, and as I said, I have a hard copy and it's available to anybody. Chief Charette had directed that the board would be free to act or not act at its discretion. And should they find a reason to act, that they should forward those requests to the proper authorities who could handle that. It was, at least I believe, insinuated at the last meeting that the Board of Selectmen hadn't done anything, hadn't taken action, weren't prioritizing. And so I did want to point out that we actually did. That's why I wanted to wait and get all their ducks in a row. In January of 2020, we did send a request to the state. 2 months later, which is the end of March, right after COVID hit, we finally heard back from the state. And if you're familiar with the state, 2 months is a pretty quick turnaround. So, but we did hear back. And the state actually did provide some guidance. That guidance did not involve in any way, shape, or form speed bumps, islands, rotaries. In fact, they were very specific around enhanced signage and refreshed painting. They were very specific on what we should do. And these are from the state professionals, traffic professionals. I think to go a little further, I want to point out that over the past year, this board, the current iteration, the previous iteration, have been very concerned with keeping our residents safe, whether it's on the roads or the pandemic. And to that end, I'd like to remind everyone that in 2018, we hired a full-time traffic enforcement officer, Officer Derek Gaylord, and he's been a star at that. Because of him and Chief Maxfield, over this past year, violations in town went from 702 in 2018 to 1,067 in 2019, last year. While the violations went up, accidents went through the floor. From 567 accidents in 2018 to 411 last year, a reduction of 150 accidents on our roads in 1 year because of the safety enforcement of our department, Chief Maxfield and Officer Gaylord. In fact, they've been so successful at making all of these roads safer that we no longer even qualify for a Safer Roads grant that we had been getting every single year in order to make our roads safer. We are now so safe, we can't get the money anymore. Because I guess to quote one of our officers, I think it was our chief, we're a victim of our own success. Officer Gaylord has been so good at what he does. And by the way, kudos to him, because people need to realize we have one traffic enforcement officer, one who has to cover a town larger and with more road miles than most of our neighbors who have multiple. Auburn has an entire division. So Officer Gaylord deserves great kudos for doing a wonderful job. And again, because of that, our roads are so safe, we don't qualify for the Safer Grant anymore. I also want to touch on, if I can, the data provided at that last meeting that said 21,000 cars travel a certain section of road every week. I'm not going to dispute that it's valuable data. However, I think that if we're going to actually use that data, then we should be well aware of how to read and interpret that data. And as a private citizen, I don't know how, so I had to go to law enforcement and I had to ask for at least brief education. What I learned was that it's not 21,000 different cars down that road. It's actually not cars, it's counting trips. And I learned how they interpret that and what it actually means. And that 21,000 cars traveling a section of road in 1 week could mean realistically that was actually only about 11,000 or 10,000, half that number of actual different cars, possibly less. And they explained to me how it works. If I was to leave my home in the morning to drop off my child at daycare and then come home and then go back out to get them later and then come home, that counts as 4 trips, 1 in, 1 out, 1 in, 1 out. Just dropping off my own child for daycare and pickup flags 4 out of that. If I go grocery shopping in the middle, I suddenly count for 6. And if I have a business meeting, my one person, my one car can account for 8 flags against that number. So I think it's important, A, to understand how that number is arrived at and what it means, how to interpret it. Further, I learned that the week in question was monitored at a resident request, and that's fine. I think that's actually wonderful. But I just think that, again, when I learned what week of the year it was the last week of June, and I again spoke to law enforcement in town to find out, and I learned that that is also likely one of the most highly traveled weeks of the entire year. No one's gone for summer vacations yet and out of work. They're also going to work. The schools had just gotten out a week prior, so all the students are on the roads now. The college kids are home. And I believe that to really have an accurate assessment of that number, we should take that number. It's a valid, real number, but we should take that number and we should do another random week in July or August, another random week in, say, October, and maybe one in February or March. If we really want to do our due diligence, right, and not be lazy about this, do it again the following June. And then, instead of just saying, hey, this is it, because we don't know. It could be an anomaly. We don't know if it's truly the average. What I've just laid out would allow us to actually say this is truly an average, or that was actually an anomaly, and that the majority of the rest of the year, it's only half that number, which even if it was 10,000, would only mean 5,000 cars. But in other words, we have to have accurate data, and instead of just pulling random numbers, do a real study to find out, is it fluctuating by season or is it maintaining that number? So now you understand that part. I would also like to point out that there was another statement made regarding a terrible accident that had just happened prior to our meeting. And the statement was made that it was obvious that speed was a factor in that accident. And again, one simple phone call revealed that speed had nothing to do with that accident. It was a medical event. So I just will give you one more little tidbit, a word of caution, and then one more word of caution. And I believe I saw Mike McGrath here, and he knows a lot more about this than I do. So he can talk if he'd like to somebody else. But I learned that, if this board wants to have a traffic study conducted anywhere in town, more power to us. And I think we should. We all want safer roads. But I learned it's a double-edged sword, that a traffic study could not only result in lowerings of the speed limit, but it could result in the increasing of the speed limit. And I learned that if they perform a study and it turns out that the average vehicles, the average driver or car is moving at 6 miles an hour above the speed limit, that they very well could come back and actually increase the speed limit 5 miles an hour. So as I was told, be careful what you wish for, because it could go either way. So that being said, I did want to share all this with the board members and anyone watching, because it's just a word of caution. We have to be careful with what we say, careful with what we do, and be very careful with the data that we provide to the public and members of this board and town management to ensure it's accurate, and to take our time and do our homework first, so that we have this kind of information to have an intelligent discussion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
No, thank you for that very comprehensive report, actually. It was much appreciated. Any other comments, questions,
It's all
concerns
public
from-
record, by the way, Karen, and it's all available to anyone who asks.
Yep. I'd like to go through the board first, and then we'll, Mike, I see you. I think you're waving. Any other board members before we open it up?
Madam
No?
Chair, the only thing I'd add is I think we still have to have a discussion around the reconstitution or reassembly of the actual traffic commission. I don't know if we want to do that tonight or next meeting, but I think we need to determine what we want it to look like.
That's up to the board. What are your wishes?
Can someone correct me, but did somebody make a recommendation not to? And if so, who was it? I can't, honestly, I can't remember.
That makes two of us.
I think we had
I
talked
don't
about
think anybody said not to.
making it back, basically putting it back together, but we didn't know who should be on it. I know there was a concern for Mr. Smolsky and others that if there were a committee, that we have to empower them. So members of DPW, police, fire, planning department, etc., who could actually make recommendations that could be carried out, as opposed to be, so it still be advisory, but to have a little more teeth to it.
I can actually speak to that. I was a member of the Traffic Commission and the chair since its inception, and everything that Mr. Singer has said is 100% accurate. The data is there, but to interpret the data is kind of the important part of that. We did submit one of the letters, and I spoke to the board in January on behalf of the commission to outline the fact that we were an advisory board. We had no budget, we have no authority. We were there to make suggestions, and we had done that. Any information that we had received through citizens or whether it be letters or emails and so on, were passed on to the appropriate department, I would say, whether it be a complaint of speeders on a certain street or signage or so on. And we were passing forward to Jerry Foskett and Chief Maxfield and so on, our concerns in regards to what was told to us. And they've been very responsive. What we found was that we were being kind of pushed into the realm of, for lack of a better word, dictating what needs to be done. And we came to the agreement that it is not our place to tell Jerry Foskett how to run his highway department, and it's not our place to tell Chief Maxfield how to run his department. That we were just passing along kind of empirical data that, you know, the sign was down here or the lines were faded there, and they were very responsive. One of the things that we said at that January meeting was the fact that we're kind of being redundant in our suggestions to those agencies. Jerry's aware of when signs go down through accident reports. I'm sure the chief has communicated with him through department head meetings and so on, and that if there was a concern, he'd pick up the phone and talk to Jerry, and they would work out together what needs to be done through insurance. And there's a whole procedure that goes along with replacing signs and so on. And we were just an extra step in that process. So one of our suggestions, and in one of the letters that you're before you tonight, was, do we need to have a civilian traffic commission when entities within the town itself are already addressing certain concerns? Yes, we passed along a lot of information, and when Officer Gaylord got information in regards to complaint streets, he has a traffic counter that would not only count the vehicles, but count the speed of the vehicle, see if the complaints were warranted, and that he would, so he doesn't spend 8 hours a shift sitting on a road that only has a slight traffic, a speed increase, rather than the areas that he would be more effective. And he's been able to respond to that. The data shows that Chief Maxfield has shown that the citations have gone up, whether they, and it doesn't even say if those citations are warnings or money fines, but the citations have gone up. The number of traffic collisions has decreased by 28% from one year to the next, where the 5 prior years to that, they were going up incrementally. So this is the first downward trend now that he's had a full year of being on as a traffic, you know, for the full impact of his position. So everything that Mr. Singer has said is correct in regards to what we're doing. Where we have not met because of the corona and the COVID pandemic and so on, we haven't really found the need. We haven't had a lot of information passed along to us in regards to that through there's a traffic commission Facebook page, and I've still received emails even though I've retired from the police department. But at this point, we wanted to see, are we being redundant in having a commission that would then take a complaint, pass it along to the chief, who would pass it along to either the traffic officer or Superintendent Foskett and so on. It seems like there was an extra step in that process. So we were wondering, is it best served having the group together? And although there have been suggestions through the commission itself, I was one, I know I can speak for myself, disagreed with us having any kind of more authority, whether it be a budget or decision-making. As I said, I'm not going to be so impertinent as to tell Jerry Foskett, who's been hired by the town and has been in the position for decades as working on the highway department, how to do his job. I don't know how to do his job. I'm not, you know, otherwise I would apply for the position, and, you know, he still has it. That's why he's there. He knows what he's doing, and so does the chief. So if we continue the traffic commission, my suggestion would be to have people on the commission that can make those decisions, but I think they're already there and they're already doing it.
Madam Chair,
Yep.
if I may, for those who may not know Mr. McGrath and couldn't have seen through the beard, he can grow in a lot. He can obviously grow in a lot faster than me.
This is my retirement beard. I had to shave every day for work, but now I don't.
Yes. So Mr. McGrath, I'll call him that for the meeting instead of Mike. Mr. McGrath was a recently retired. That's how fast the beard grows. Recently retired Charlton police officer with a lot of years here, and I wanted to make sure that everyone knew that. Again, thank you to him for his service, and it also put him in a unique position to be on that commission. What I'd like to point out, again, this is just my opinion in regard to what Mike just said. I agree. This board, I don't believe legally could anyway give any authority to the commission. And I do agree that there are already channels for residents to submit complaints. Where I do still see how the commission could be, I think, valid, is in Chief Charette's original idea. Chief Charette's original idea, and anyone can pull that letter, was never to have a committee with authority and binding decisions, or even as a channel for complaints, but his quote, a repository for ideas. So we want involvement. We want safe roads. And we have people like Mr. Smolsky who are willing to get involved, and Mike and others. While we do have channels for complaints, I like his idea of a repository of ideas where people can still come together and say, hey, you know what? What about this? Or what if we suggested this? Or what if we asked the town or state to look into this? It doesn't have to be a complaint. I go back again. 3 words, repository of ideas. It's a quote from Chief Charette. And if we can have the commission and have it focus on those 3 words, I think that maybe they can come up with some new ideas or some ways that maybe make things better. We already have a complaint channel, but those 3 words, I think.
Any other members? Direction for tonight?
If I could ask the board to consider for direction for tonight, to ask Andrew to just simply follow up with Jerry, as Mike had alluded to, just so we can hopefully get back to members of this board for budgetary reasons. You know, again, and I agree with Mike, we're not going to tell Jerry how to do his job. That's why we hired him and pay him. But what's the cost going to be? Do we need to do something to come up with monies to fund any sign refreshing of paint, enhancing signs? You know, what would the actual cost be to implement the state recommendations? Because they've done a lot of work, that commission, as well as Jerry, Max, Mike, Derek. But at this point, the state's come back, and as wonderful as it is, we don't know what the cost would be to implement. And I'd like to know what the cost would be to implement those changes.
Well, through the chair, Dave, some of those changes have actually already been implemented.
Oh, good.
You know, the approaches to Stafford Street, the 4-way signs, the new one, and the stop signs that are now solar-powered blinking ones to really get your attention. Those were direct recommendations under that state report that were implemented within the last month. So the only reason why it wasn't done any earlier was because of the lead time to actually get the signs.
Thank you, Andrew. And those signs, aren't they not repairable, correct? I think we had one, we did our Oxford, got hit by a truck, and like thousands of dollars for one sign gone.
Yeah. So make sure we document who's hitting us.
Yeah.
Through the chair, isn't there some grant money too that we have that could possibly be used through the kind of through one of the COVID grants? Andrew.
Through the chair again, there is a current grant opportunity that's out there for, it's targeted for traffic calming measures. And it's mainly, the main goal of it was to kind of address a lot of the cities and towns that have provided for outdoor spaces for dining. That was kind of the main goal of it, but they've also added in, you know, traffic calming measures, dedicated bus lanes, safe routes to school. They've kind of packaged that on underneath it. The caveat to the whole thing is that it has to be a quick implementation. So upon award of the grant, and I think it's the grants range between $5,000 and like $200,000, the program has to be implemented within 30 days of grant award. So those are kind of the stipulations that you have that come with that. But you know, just looking at some things today, like the speed limit signs that, you know, tell you how fast you're going, whether or not those would actually fall underneath a grant category, if there was anything else that might.
Like through the chair, like the coming down Stafford, that's kind of like one of our big hot spots in the town with accidents and speed. So it won't fund an engineer looking at, is there, if we cut more of those trees down, or if we change that curve a little bit, that we can make it a little safer? Is it, so it's not really that, it's not kind of the study piece to get to it?
Again, yeah, they're looking for the quick implementation of these. So they're looking for something that had already been engineered, that the town has been sitting on for, for the right opportunity for it to try to implement. And say that's why a lot of them are like bike lanes and stuff like that. It's things that were like, hey, here's a quick pot of money that will buy us some road paint to be able to get the project done, versus here's some money for engineering.
Thank you.
Comments? I know the Chief Maxfield, I think he's on. Did you want to add anything, Chief?
Hi. Oh, I think I can make it work. Technology is a wonderful
Hey,
thing.
we see you. It's all good.
Yeah. No, we've done some things to reduce accidents. That's what we're all about. And I think that we've been successful. And the Traffic Commission has had some great ideas, and we've implemented some. And the stop signs came out of that, some turn lanes, some other things. So, there are no easy answers. I mean, we have speeding cars all over town, and, we address it when we can. And, we have equipment that we bought with grants, to place. It's mobile equipment that we do surveys, and then the traffic officer puts it out to the staff. The key hotspot times and locations where officers can focus their efforts, so they're not just basically sitting there. Because one of the things technology has also brought us is these apps that tell you where the police are sitting. So, after we sit there for a few minutes, we've sort of, the jig is up kind of thing, and we're, we're burned. So, so that's what we're focusing on. And I appreciate Officer McGrath, even though he does look like a Sasquatch. I appreciate all his good work on the Traffic Commission.
Thank you, Chief. We appreciate your comments. So to the board, what do we want to do? I don't think we're really answering the question so far as, do we want to keep the group? I know, David, you did make the comment, you see it more as a group that's a repository for ideas from, but is that the feeling for the entire board? Do we want to keep it as is, or do we want to reconstitute it? I think that's the direction they really would like us. They want the answer. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well,
Yes?
through the chair, Michael, McGrath, if we've had a reduction in the last few years, which is great news, it's good to hear. Do you think that part of that can be attributed to the Traffic Commission in their efforts?
There is some suggestions that we made through the highway department as well as the police department. And one of the things that actually the board responded to was a dedicated traffic officer, which I think has been the greatest impact. But, as with everything, I mean, if money was no object, we would have the safest community in the world. But, and my only suggestion would be to continue to build on what we've already done. Yes, there are some great ideas, and, I'd like to put a cop on every street 24 hours a day, but it's not fiscally feasible to do. And that would certainly, have a bigger impact. But once again, ours is just, we were there to make some suggestions. And I think the suggestions are great. I mean, half of the people that were on the commission were of the town residents, half of them were police officers that have had decades of experience in dealing with traffic concerns, as well as people who didn't have all of that experience, that came in from a different perspective. And I think that was valuable. As far as how we go forward, it depends on if we can use the town credit card and hire more cops and get more, a traffic helicopter or whatever. I mean, I don't know what else to say other than the fact that there's some great ideas. It's, we have to be able to bounce them off of someone to see if they're fiscally responsible. And that's kind of where we were, if we step in and say, hey, this would be a great idea, we didn't want to come across, we were trying to be very judicious in our regards to how we presented it to the department heads to make sure that we weren't stepping on toes, that we weren't going to tell them, hey, this is what I think you should do in your agency, your department.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do I think it has value? Yes. Could it be rethought out? Yes, with some people who are on the board that can make those decisions. I don't want to, give the chief or Jerry Hoskett, extra few hours a week to sit down or a month to sit down on a traffic commission to talk about what works within their budgets. But those are the guys that would definitely have the greater impact as to whether or not a proposed idea would be feasible.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I think and to David's comment, the repository of information seemed valuable.
So we want to continue. We want to keep it intact, because again, I'm looking back at the letter and the recommendations from the commission in general. If we were to keep it intact, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but they wanted you were looking at reconstituting it with different members such as Highway, Board of Selectmen, FinCom. So, yes?
Yes.
So Karen, I'm sorry,
I think that would be more valuable because, the component, once again, that we didn't have was the funding to be able to do anything. And we would have to then say, if it works within your budget, and I mean, the department heads are a better guardian of what they know can work within their fiscal responsibilities.
Thank you. David, you were saying something?
yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. No, all I wanted to point out was, again, based upon need. It doesn't, and the members or Mike, right, they'll know. If it's reconstituted, does it need to meet monthly, or is it, if it is going to truly be the repository of ideas, could it be, a less onerous commitment on residents and employees to meet, bi-monthly?
So David, just a couple of things before you answer that, Mike. And Andrew, chime in too if I get this incorrect, but even though we like the idea of the repository for ideas, when any committee is appointed by us, they are given a specific goal or mission, if you will. And this particular one was, again, it was pointed out, advisory group, and
Yep.
we listed when it was founded, and what they're to field complaints related to Charlton roadways and present recommended solutions to the Board of Selectmen. If we're going to change that, I think we have to do so formally. Andrew, if we're going to make changes like that?
Yeah, it would just be ensuring that the charge is appropriately amended and passed by the board.
And what the group should look like. But anyway, so go ahead, David. Did you want to say anything else? Or?
No, Karen, thank you.
So any action on our part other than do we want to discuss this? I know we're going to be doing our workshop very soon. We're going to be discussing a date for the workshop or for our goals and objectives.
So, Madam,
Yep.
then to your point, then, could I make a motion or somebody suggest then that we make this an item for that goals meeting or at least to have an opportunity to discuss what the makeup should be instead of extending the evening's conversation. We could sit here and go back and forth for an hour trying to figure out how to comprise this group. This would give us all time to think about it and then come together and say, here are my thoughts of how the makeup should be. And I think it would save everyone a lot of time and make it much more efficient.
Yeah, and I agree with you, David, and you certainly can make that motion. I just would remind the members, because I know we get inundated with the paperwork, but we do have recommendations from the commission, for suggestions on the makeup of the board or committee. So we should reference them. Is there a second to that?
Yeah, I'll second that, Madam Chair.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none. David?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Patsy?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Your vote aye, passes unanimously. Thank you so much, and thanks, Mike, for your comments, and Chief Maxfield, always appreciated.
Thank you.
One thing I'd add is I know Dave's supposed to do that.
All right. If you're not
Thank you.
on, and can you please mute yourself? 'Cause I'm hearing lots of interesting sounds.
Sorry, Madam Chair, just a quick thing. I know Dave Smolsky had asked a question in the Zoom Groom chat.
Oh, I didn't see that. I don't see that. Can someone relay the question, or can he come on and ask the question?
It was a question, can the public weigh in during the Civilian Traffic Commission topic as well? I didn't know if Dave had something he wanted to add.
And Madam Chair, I'm going to run aside because I'm getting some weak signal.
Yep.
So I'll be right back.
All right.
So is the public permitted to talk about the topic, or is it not open to the public to discuss?
But I will let you speak for a couple of minutes. Just please identify yourself, your address, and keep it to a couple of minutes if possible.
Sure, just like last time. David Smolsky, 189 Center Depot Road here in Charlton. Honestly, I'm not really too sure where to begin. I don't personally think that the topics are being addressed adequately. I understand and respect that you guys will talk about committee membership. Like Mike McGrath said, I don't think anybody on the commission has suggested or wanted any specific decision-making power. I think what commission members, at least myself, what I wanted when I was on the commission was to have a more expedient way to address issues productively. So that, in my opinion, that's what's behind the letter from last October about the actual makeup and membership of the committee. When it comes to an official traffic calming study, traffic calming is much more than policing in the community. And I completely respect the police in our department, in the town, across the country. At the same time, I am not advocating for a police officer on every corner. It's about drivers' behaviors. It's not just about accident statistics at intersections. It's about speed on the roadways. It's about roadways that actually accommodate vehicles traveling multiple directions, pedestrians, people walking their pets, bicyclists. It's about roadways that accommodate all of those types of people and vehicles on the road. And when I hear the statistics, because I've mentioned the statistics to the Traffic Commission certainly last month, and it's great that people are interpreting the statistics. I think that's fantastic. The devil's in the details. However, it doesn't bother me that 20,000 plus vehicles accounts for the same car traveling to and from down the road. Doesn't bother me whatsoever. What bothers me is the rate of speed the vehicles travel in front of my house. When the fastest vehicle is clocked at 74 miles an hour, I'm sorry, Houston, we have a problem. And when I hear that, be careful what you wish for. If you're asking for a study, be careful because the traffic speed limit could actually go up. If the traffic recommendation from qualified engineers is that the speed limit needs to be raised, awesome. I get it. No problem with that. I would also imagine they're going to recommend you might need some lines on the side. You might need to consider sidewalks, things that we've had in discussion in various forums. You know, Mr. Borowski, I know you've mentioned sidewalks in the past on City Depot, for example. Guess what? Absolutely could be part of a solution, but let's not throw darts at a dartboard in the dark. Let's get good, solid recommendations. I don't know where the funding comes from that. It sounds like if you're trying to get funding from a certain grant, it's got to be a very quick, expedient turnaround. So that could be a barrier. But I'm telling you, I was sitting in Ronnie's parking lot this weekend waiting for food, and I saw 3 vehicles blow by on Center Depot Road. And it's not about accidents at just at intersections. It's about the driving behaviors leading to and from the intersections. And to me, that's the reason the Traffic Commission was even discussed years ago, because I was crabbing to the former interim police chief, and the situation hasn't changed on my road. And I invite every Board of Selectmen member, park in my driveway, see what transpires. I don't care what week of what month, I don't care what time of day, it doesn't matter to me, but witness it, see it. My neighbors, I have a neighbor down the street I've never met before. He felt compelled to write me a letter after the last Board of Selectmen meeting. And I realize, you know, you said just a couple minutes. I've probably exhausted my time. So I respect that. I appreciate it. I really just don't feel that the initial concerns submitted in those letters are adequately addressed yet. And as far as the statistics, the time of year, all that stuff, hey, again, I'm going to say it for the record. I don't care about what vehicle has passed my house multiple times a day. I have a friend, he's admitted to me, he's like, I go down your street doing 50 miles an hour. I just do. And he's a friend of mine, and he goes by my house multiple times a day. And the speed limit certainly isn't 50. And I remind him constantly every time he brings it up in conversation. So I'm disappointed. I don't feel like this is going in the right direction. I don't feel like we're making progress as a town. I don't feel like my specific concerns as a citizen about the safety on the roadway, specifically on my stretch of the roadway, is being addressed. And I'm sure that you guys have heard me loud and clear 2 meetings in a row. And that's really it for tonight. Thanks for your time.
Yep, we appreciate your comments. I can assure you your comments are not falling on deaf ears, and we will keep working on this as you've heard tonight. So,
Through the chair,
Patsy, go ahead.
we're not kind of just pushing it aside. I promise. When we have workshops, we're able to kind of sit down and set goals, and maybe this pieces in with some of our we're changing job descriptions, and we have so many other things to do that, you know, maybe when we're changing job descriptions, we'll, you know, other people will have actual responsibility for lowering the speed. This is something that needs to kind of be, it's not gonna, we can't fix this problem in this meeting. It's gonna happen, but I know personally, I'm scared. My kids can't even cross the road to walk to the lake. I got a nice, you know, a huge dam betterment fee, and I have to walk my kids across, you know, just my road, just because I'm scared of how fast the cars go on my own road. So speed is a huge problem, and if there's other ways to fix it, at least I'll insist that it goes on part of our goals as selectmen. So we're constantly reminded on that this is an issue in town, because we don't want our children or even our residents to be hit by cars or be scared to walk on their own roads. So again, we're not just shoving this aside. It's just very hard. It's a big decision matter to kind of come up with a solution or a plan in one meeting. So this is something that will be discussed in the future.
Thank you,
Again,
Patsy. David, did you have something else you wanted to add?
Yeah, thank you. So I do concur with Patsy on, you know, I take my dogs for walks and frequently have to reel in the leash when a car comes by because they go by very quickly. So my dogs don't get hit. I don't want my kids to get hit, my dogs or myself, my family members. However, as much as I, again, appreciate, and people who know me know, I appreciate every resident's concern. But I'm going to say flat out, to suggest this board in this town doesn't care about the safety or isn't taking it seriously is nothing short of disingenuous. I'll almost leave it at that, but I'm going to point out, again, you cannot claim that you don't care about data and that data doesn't matter. To say a car, one vehicle or multiple vehicles pass an area at 70 miles an hour or plus, what was that vehicle? It could have been a police cruiser or an ambulance. Again, we don't know. So to just randomly throw things out there, that is why data is important. All the data and reading it properly. And also make sure that the public who are watching understand what traffic calming measures mean. Traffic calming measures, no matter what you want to argue, ask the police and they will tell you flat out. Traffic calming measures means speed bumps, rotaries, islands. It is not changing behaviors. Changing behaviors is enforcement by citations, tickets. That's what's going to change behaviors. Educate, get signage, get painting, educate, ticket them. That's how you're going to change the behaviors. Traffic calming measures are not meant to change behaviors. Those are physical barriers. And Madam Chair, you can just ask the police, they will tell you that, and I will leave it at that.
Right,
Mr. Singer, I respectfully disagree.
all right, Dave.
And
You should talk to the police department then.
you know what?
Okay, hey, well, excuse me.
Sure.
We're done for this evening.
Okay.
I welcome more comments, but as Patsy stated very eloquently, we're not going to solve this issue tonight, and we are committed to working on this in the future. So I will chime in, and we have to move on. But again, feel free to call us, send us emails, and come to meetings. In the future, we should actually be meeting in person, and we're looking forward to that, I'm sure. So, but thank you. All right, so the next item on the agenda is, we're going to talk, we did the special permit already, so we're under, just so everyone is on the same page, again, we're under new business. Item number 2, Board of Selectmen members, appointment to, we're going to do some appointment to committees. So hopefully all of you had a chance to look that over and think about maybe what you would like to be appointed to. So Andrew, you want to take this, I want to read your memo, please.
Yep.
Thank you.
So with the town election having 2 members on the board, and the following list is, having 2 new members on the board, the following is a list of committees the board members are on. The board is asked to review each committee and make changes as necessary. And I'll just read the committees. CMRPC, regular and alternate. Public Safety Building Capital Campaign Steering Committee. Public Safety Construction Building Committee. Public Safety Building Committee. The LNG Advisory Committee. Marijuana Advisory Committee. Municipal Building Ad Hoc Committee. And the Sex Offender Bylaw Committee.
All right, so let's get down to business here. When you signed up as a select board member or whatever, you thought it was just going to be maybe one night, huh? Anyway, who would like to start with, is there anyone who would like to be on the CMRPC? We need the regular and then an alternate. Bill, I didn't know if you were still interested in being the alternate. I would like to come off, and I did recommend it, and I think I was pulled from it. Bill, are you willing to be the primary or the alternate,
Yeah.
or are you not interested?
Yeah, no, I can do either. I'm fine being either one. Being the regular or the alternate.
And through the chair, I will be whatever he doesn't want to be. I'll be the other.
Do I hear nominations? That's the important part. Nominations, please.
Yeah, you know what, Karen, I'll take the regular if Patsy wants the alternate.
You good with that, Patsy?
Yep. So I make a motion that Bill becomes the primary CMRPC rep.
Yeah, I'm gonna second that. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, discussion. Hearing none. David?
Aye.
Are you good? Yes? I think that was an aye. Steve?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Patsy?
Aye.
I wrote aye. Okay, that passes unanimously. Next motion.
Motion to appoint Patsy as the alternate.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. David?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Patsy?
Aye.
I vote aye, so that's unanimous. Thank you. Many thanks to both of you. Next is the Public Safety Building Capital Campaign Steering Committee. I'd really like to stay on that.
Yeah, motion to appoint you, Karen.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. David?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Patsy?
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion passes. It's unanimous. Thank you. Where are we? Public Safety Construction Building Committee. Again, it was John McGrath, and he's no longer with us, so we need a new member. Is there anyone in particular looking for this? Any members? I'm not hearing anything. All right, I wouldn't. I'll do it if you want to nominate me.
Yeah, Karen, you got it. Motion.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor. Let's start with Patsy.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
David.
Aye.
Aye. So that passes. It's unanimous. Thanks.
Karen, I'm thinking this next one is kind of like related to it, so if you don't mind doing that too.
Me?
Yeah.
It's a little bit different. What
I'm listening for someone else who may be interested. Actually.
Karen, I make a motion
Yes.
that we share that. I'll share that with you. we'll both be on it, and one of us
I'm
will
not
make
into
sure
sharing, Patsy. No.
Oh.
Kidding. So you want to, are you going to be the lead or do I have to make this big? Let's see. So,
So
we only need one member. Wait, no, we only need one.
Patsy
Right?
so would Patsy be an alternate then?
I think Andrew probably should stick as alternate.
Oh, no,
At least
that's,
what I perceive.
Sharon, that should be you. I'm reading it wrong. I was thinking about the municipal building committee, so.
No, this
I-
is so everyone's on the same page. We're talking about the LNG advisory committee. You don't want to
No.
do it, Patsy?
No, Karen, I'm sorry. I thought we were talking the public
The
safety
public
building.
safety building
We were.
committee.
We were.
We already did. We voted on that.
But
No,
there's a
that was
public
the-
safety construction and there's a public safety building. There's two-
Oh.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
those are related, so that's all yours. That's your baby, right?
Oh.
Yeah,
Silly me.
Karen.
I passed over that. Okay.
No.
So
Yeah, sorry, Karen. That's why
Yeah,
I
that's-
was pushing you to do that because you're
Nope.
kind of like driving public
Here.
safety.
you
Yeah.
are keeping me honest here. I skipped right over that second one. So, okay. So just to be
No
clear,
worries.
this is, I believe the last motion I pulled, it was the Public Safety Building Committee. So this would be the Public Safety Construction Building Committee.
Yeah, you know what? How about this? I make the motion that Karen is our representative for both the Public Safety Construction Building Committee and the Public Safety Building Committee, and that Andrew is the alternate for the Public Safety.
Is there a
I
second?
second that. That's a fabulous motion.
All right, here, any discussion? Hearing none. David?
Aye.
Patsy?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
I vote aye. All right, thank you, I think. So next, the one I was focused on is the LNG Advisory Committee. Previously, it was Selectmen Board Member Sharon McGrath, so we need a new member.
I
Yeah,
volunteer.
Motion to appoint, Patsy.
Is there a second? All right, discussion. Hearing none. David?
Aye.
Thank you. Steve?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Patsy?
Aye.
All right, and I vote aye. Congratulations. Motion passes unanimous. The next item is the Marijuana Advisory Committee. It was previously Deb Noble and John McGrath, so we'll need two. And
Through the chair, is this do we really need a marijuana advisory committee? Only because the Board of Health does their thing, the Board of Selectmen does their thing, is it something that just sometimes we have committees that are just kind of there? Is there a true need? When we were introducing marijuana and all that kind of the newness of it all was necessary, like, is this something that we should hold off on? Or, I mean, I guess we could appoint and then think about it later. I'm just not sure there's such a huge need.
so Patsy, that's a great question, but I think, and Andrew, maybe you can answer this. I think it's more about, it's in some agreement that we have to have this committee and like a representative from the marijuana establishment has to be on, right? Am I remembering that one correctly?
Yeah, this committee works with the applicants to kind of make sure any that are outstanding are addressed.
But through the chair, why couldn't that just be part of, fall under the EDC umbrella?
EDC.
So you don't have to have a separate committee? Because it's really, it's an EDC function. It's just a.
Well, I think it's one of those things that we're not going to, I'd hate to do anything that's, I don't want to say illegal, but we're going to find out has to be rescinded because by law, we have to do it. So just a suggestion, what if we make the appointments and at the first meeting, we can figure out if we need to, if we can dissolve it or if it's needed. Thoughts?
Yeah, Karen, that works for me.
Yeah, I agree.
We still need people.
Unless Steve wants to do it. Steve, would you want this one?
Well, we need two people anyway, so.
Okay, so I'll volunteer if Steve volunteers.
Okay.
He's smiling.
Motion.
I guess that's a yes, huh?
Okay.
All right, I need motions. Come on, people, let's go.
Motion, so moved. Patsy and Steve.
Second.
All right, discussion. Hearing none, so Patsy, you're gonna be the lead? That was a two, wait. Yep,
Yes, sure.
yeah, we need the primary and then the alternate. So Patsy will be the primary, Steve's the alternate. Are we good with that? Is that what everyone meant by their motion?
Fine with that.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none. David?
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Patsy.
Aye.
And I vote aye. It passes. It's unanimous. Finally, Municipal Building Ad Hoc Committee, that was previously John McGrath, an alternate, previous town administrator. So we need, well, Andrew, I guess you'll be the alternate again. And then we just need another primary.
I'd like to sit on the sex offender bylaw committee, so I'm going to take a pass on the municipal building one.
And I'd like to see that one too, so I'm waiting for that one.
Okay. Patsy, well, Patsy, Steve. One of you?
I'm actually curious at how it works and what their mission is and everything else. I might as well jump in and represent us on that.
So moved.
Unless anybody else really wants to do it.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let's see. David?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Patsy?
Aye.
I vote aye, so that passes, it's unanimous. And the Sex Offender Bylaw Committee, I believe,
Motion
David,
that David and I sit on that one.
is there a second?
Second.
Do we have a second?
Yeah,
Second.
second.
Okay, all right, hearing, okay, discussion?
Now,
Right,
just
hearing
thank
none.
you.
What?
I wrote the original bylaw, so I'd like to be on this one.
Okay, sounds good to me. All right, so let's vote. Where are we? Patsy?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
And David?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Everything that passes, it's unanimous. That wasn't so bad. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Andrew, anything you wanted to add before we move on?
Nope. Sounds good.
Gee, okay, so we are still under new business. The item coming up is the financial discussion regarding debt exclusion for the public safety building. In case you tuned in late, I did make an announcement earlier that there's going to be a presentation. You are going to hear from several people, including our town administrator, our finance person, finance director, Donna, and Rob Barton. Right, Rob, you're on here? I think I see you on there. And I think I might also, Noreen Johnson Smith, you're on here, right? So I might pull you up because you're part of the capital campaign. So if you don't mind, somewhere during that, we'll plug you in. And I also did mention that we would be taking comments from the public, but after the board makes comments after the presentation. So we'll have the presentation, we'll have discussion by the board, and then we'll listen to some comments if folks from the general public have any. Does that sound good? Did I miss anything?
Sounds good. Bear with me 1 second while I try to get the presentation up.
Yeah, no problem. I just want to, while you're doing that, I do want to thank everyone who's been involved, you know, to get to this point we're at today. I know it was a lot of work, and I can't wait to look at this again. So thank you in advance for your hard work and your efforts. It's much appreciated.
All right. So what I'll do is I'll kind of walk through the presentation, and as we get to certain parts, I'll probably either turn it to you, Karen, or Rob, or Donna, depending on you guys. You know, if we need some more for more information on the topics discussed. So I'll just kind of walk through it from the beginning here.
Yeah, and if you wouldn't mind, Andrew, too, at certain parts, if you know, just pause and we'll see if the team members who are presenting have anything they want to say before maybe they forget, or because it's pertinent to what you're talking about.
Okay.
But that will just be, you know, you, Donna, the people I just mentioned. But anyway, thank you. Take it away.
Okay, very good. So it's just basically a presentation on, you know, where we stand with the new public safety facility project. You know, the bottom line discussion of what we wanted to talk about was, you know, that we're basically seeking a maximum of $26.9 million debt exclusion for a public safety building construction. The average, or the tax impact for the average single family home is going to be about $225 per year, which is equivalent to about 62 cents per day. The proposal addresses the current space and operational needs for both the police department and fire department, The Public Safety Building Committee has been working to have a true number available prior to the November election. At the end of the presentation, the recommendation is basically going to be that the board approve the debt exclusion ballot question, allow the building committee to complete the proposal, and allow voters to decide the ultimate fate of the project. So I'll turn it over to Donna if you want to go through the explanation of the overrides and exclusions.
Sure. So one of the things that I wanted to speak about, because there seems to be a lot of confusion over some of the terms that have been used. So I wanted to kind of briefly explain some of the terms that have been used for the people who are not used to hearing all of the different terminology. When the state implemented Prop 2.5, it was determined that there would need to be some exceptions allowed to accommodate for larger debt projects, capital expenditures, or increases in operating budgets with the town voter approval. This can be accomplished with 3 different avenues. The first one is an override. That's a permanent increase in the levy limit. This is usually done to increase an operating budget. Charlton voted an override to increase the Dudley-Charlton Regional School District operating budget effective fiscal 2019. Another avenue is a debt exclusion. This moves the payment of the debt and interest to outside that levy limit, and it expires when the last debt and interest payment is made. Charlton's voted several of these debt exclusions over the years, and the final payment in FY25 for the town's highway facility, but they'll still have 2 remaining school debt exclusions, one for the Dudley-Charlton Regional School District's athletic fields, and one for Bay Path Regional Vocational School. And the third avenue is a capital exclusion. This allows for payment of capital items outside of the levy limit. This is a one-time, one-year exclusion for the purchase of a specific capital item. I'm not aware that the town of Charlton's ever used that method, but certainly other towns in Worcester County have utilized that method. Some of the other terminology we've heard at some of the town meeting discussions have to do with who does what. Town meeting is the one that appropriates money, and they also authorize debt. When town meeting decides to authorize debt, they can make it contingent or not contingent on the passage of a ballot question to repay that debt outside the levy limit. Contingent means that if you don't get a successful passage of the ballot question, and there's certain time restrictions associated to that in Mass General Law, then it automatically rescinds the debt authorization that was voted at town meeting. You typically see this at a override question or a capital exclusion because timing is of the essence with that. You really need to know September, I think it's mid-September is the latest you can have it from an annual town meeting. And that's because of, you don't want to get too far into the fiscal year on those 2 items before you decide, make the determination that it's not going to go forward. Non-contingent is sometimes used with a debt authorization at town meeting. This is what happened with this particular project, is that it was not contingent, which means it failed the first time. It doesn't automatically rescind the bond authorization. There's a reason why you might choose to go that way, whether you're not quite sure of the final numbers yet, or if you anticipate there might be additional revenue sources, grants, donations, etc. You might not have it be contingent because it's a project it might be necessary to have multiple attempts at passage. The ballot question only determines whether that town meeting appropriation or exclusion is going to be paid outside or inside that levy limit. Because ballot question can't appropriate or authorize debt, it only makes the determination of how it's going to be paid. You can, if it's contingent, it does fail and rescind the original town meeting vote. If it's not contingent, which is if it's not stated, it would be considered non-contingent. Then you can go back as many times as the Board of Selectmen would want to go back for any debt that's remaining. So if a debt is going to be for 20 years, and year 10 something comes up and you want to go and make years 11 through 20 be a debt exclusion, you can do that as well. That's not usually what people do, but it can be done that way.
Thank you, Donna. So just to rehash, the fire department's needs, I won't spend too much time on this, but, basically why we're looking at this, and these are just the information that's taken right off the capital campaign committee's page, is that, essentially the fire stations don't meet the current standards. We are seeing an increase in emergency calls year after year, and the space currently that's out there is not adequate for what the department's needs are, inclusive of indoor space and outdoor space. From the police department side, over the last 30 years since the buildings was built, there's been a dramatic change in the way police operations have gone. Also, with a 30-year building come 30-year problems, including a 30-year-old roof in need of replacement and ADA upgrades that would have to be considered with any building with substantial building changes. Also, the communications center lacks adequate space for modern technology. Some of the locker space needs and lobby issues have been addressed in the past. So that's kind of what led to the discussion on the public safety building as a whole. So since the last consideration of the public safety building, there's been some architectural plan changes that the building committee has implemented. These include reduction in the building square footage by consolidating meeting spaces, training spaces, and dispatch space. Reorientation of the building to reduce site work. Now the proposal is that the fire station be facing the street and utility connection be reconfigured. Despite all this, the current building estimate is now at $30.4 million based on the latest estimated cost. Most of this is due to an increase in escalation costs. Part of that cost includes $2.6 million, or 5% of the total cost of the project in contingencies, but estimates have come approximately $1 million above the final project costs in the most recent bids that were received by the estimator. This is a breakdown of those estimated costs of the building as proposed. As you see, the hard cost subtotal comes to 28.429 with 2.36 million in soft costs. That comes up with the total cost of 30.75 minus some value engineering brings it down to 30.699. Based off of some of the bidding climate issues, that will bring the total approximate cost down to 28.152. Additionally, some of the alternates that are being considered to further reduce that cost, if the price does come in lower, include epoxy flooring, adding an alternate for the epoxy flooring, parking canopies, a second driveway, and a sally port bay that would bring the total approximate cost of the building down to the $27.1 million that is currently, that would be approved by the town meeting vote. So that's how we've gotten those cost estimates down to that number. Just an analysis of the escalation costs. Essentially, for every month that the project is delayed is equivalent to about $92,000 in escalation costs. That if the project was not changed at all from what was initially proposed last year, that $28.5 million project would now be $31.2 million. So some of the other things that have changed since the last time this was considered at town meeting. So the town has established the capital campaign committee, which so far has raised over $100,000 in private pledges and donations. Additionally, the debt exclusion that's being proposed would be included on the presidential ballot, which statistically gets more voters. Also, the Capital Campaign Committee has developed a comprehensive public outreach plan, including the facility needs video, outlining to the voters that this project is not a blank check, and a website with more details related to the project than the previous proposal. Additionally, $1.4 million of the cost has already been bonded for design to prepare for this debt exclusion vote, which leaves us with the 27.1 number to be debt excluded. So, Rob, I don't know if you want to go through the other options that the building committee considered.
Yes, so we had the architect, Tecton architect, look into a couple things because we know that there was this discussion about making it a fire station only. There's another discussion about potentially doing it as a piecemeal type building construction. So we had them price out the fire station only by, essentially lopping off part of the police station, and it does come with some difficulties in that. It's just not as simple as just not building a few walls. So one option for a fire station only is the larger of the two options, which is about a 27,000 square foot fire station only with a community room that can be used as the emergency operations center. There's like some meeting space in there and a fitness room that would be used jointly between the two stations. And in the end, that ends up coming out to be about $23.1 million is what that would cost us. That doesn't obviously take into account the money that the police department would then need to be funded over to their department to take care of the roof replacement, the ADA, the fire suppression. We did have our architect look at doing the renovations to their building. Even though it was out of their scope, they were willing to do it for us. And that's how they came up with that $5.1 million about that to figure it out. So you're actually at about $28 million right there with those two types of buildings. In addition, we already know that the police department have expressed a concern to the committee as well as the municipal building committee that if that did take place, they would have to increase their operating budget due to their operation cost for cell monitors if we were to take the communication center out of their building and into this new building, which we understand, financially feasibly, that doesn't really make much sense as well. Not to mention that this $23 million estimate that we have right now, we don't know what that would be because we couldn't do it right away. We'd actually have to wait to another town meeting vote, and that would have to get approved, and then we would have to go through all of the permitting issues and complete the design change on that. There is another option for fire station only, which is $20.5 million, and that takes out the emergency operations center, the community room, training room facility, and shrinks things down a little bit. And that's 20.5, and then again, then you still have that $5 million that we know exists. Just because we build a fire station only, it doesn't take out the needs that the police department, need as well in their buildings.
Thanks, Rob. So again, the other two sides, the phased approach. So either undersize mechanical equipment for a future larger building or oversized mechanical equipment for a phase one building. There's no timeline for the expansion and the unknown future building code changes that would go along with that. Including with that would be additional escalation costs and demolition costs to add on to the building. Additionally, just to build that building would need a new town meeting vote because, again, we have a public safety building that's voted on by the town rather than just a fire station. So the other option is another option considered was to reduce the proposed building size. But the proposed building that's put forward meets the operational needs of the department. A smaller building would essentially be obsolete from the time of occupancy, and if bids did come in lower, the building size couldn't immediately be addressed.
Yeah, so just so everybody knows for information purposes, the building committee, when we did originally start discussing the space needs analysis of both buildings, police and fire operations, we were at 45,819 square feet. That's what our space needs analysis, that's what the architect told us we needed. And then we further reduced that, knowing what that price tag was is $34.8 million. So we said, you know what, that's not really feasible. And we started shrinking the building down. So we went from 45,000 square feet down to 40,000 square feet by lopping off, 5,800 square feet off the building, and understanding that we wanted to make the building so that way it was functional for the members of both departments today and with the future in mind, considering that's what the situation we're in right now is when the current police station was opened up 30 years ago, unbeknownst to them when they built it. They weren't anticipating the substantial growth that took place and the technology change that happened. They unfortunately opened that building up, and it was, considered, max capacity at that point, at that time. So, we're not looking for this, great, large, overly sized building. We're actually just looking for a building to fit the current needs with the anticipation of some growth that takes place in the future.
Karen, I'll turn it over to you if you want to.
All right, so now if I would like to hear from the capital campaign chairman, one of the co-chair, Noreen, would you like to say a few words before we open this up? You can unmute yourself. And you can introduce yourself, please. Thank you.
Yep. Hi, this is Noreen Johnson-Smith. I'm at 136 Dresser Hill Road. And, just a couple of comments. I think so much time has elapsed since the public vote in May of 2019 that it is easy to forget kind of where we've been and what took place. And the vote to appropriate this money, $28.5 million, was done in May of 2019. It required a 2/3 majority to pass at town meeting, and it actually passed with a 5-to-1 majority. So it exceeded the 2/3 majority in terms of the town voting to support addressing the needs that have been outlined by our firefighters and police. I think that town recognizes that our facilities need replacement. What then happened was this question of how to finance that $28.5 million, and a little bit of maybe buyer's remorse, sticker shock of, oh my gosh, we just appropriated $28 million for a building. Is that a good price? Is it not a good price? And the language of the appropriation at town meeting did include, as Donna pointed out, options to revise the spending plan and the appropriation based on other funds that might be identified along the way. And so the Capital Campaign Committee was really charged with figuring out where those other monies might be able to come from. And that vote also allowed the board to move forward with what the town had approved for the $28.5 million. So I know I've heard questions in the community about what do they mean they've already spent $1 million? Well, we authorized that as the voters, and we did it by a very significant majority. So I think the question is, is this price tag reasonable is one of the things that also gets raised. And I'd like to highlight something that was just in the news this week. The town of Plymouth built a new fire station, and they spent $7.5 million. And I said, wow, $7.5 million for a new fire station. What a bargain. How come we can't do that? Well, it turns out this is fire station number 7 in Plymouth. They have 7 fire stations to service the town. And this fire station number 7 only has 3 bays. So that essentially would replace and not even fix the problem on our North Main Street facility alone. And if you look at how many bays the new fire station would provide for, I think it's 10 or more. I'm looking at 12 bays. So for 12 bays, just a fire station alone, you're already looking at approximately $26 million if you just build off of what would a 3-bay fire station cost. And that's just a fire station bays with sleeping quarters. That includes nothing else on top of that. So after looking at Plymouth and other towns that have built facilities, what they're getting for their dollar value and what the plans include, I've become convinced that this is not only a pretty good deal for the town, but we better hurry up and do it before the prices continue to escalate. So with that in mind, we've launched out to try to find residents who care about how not only our employees are treated in their workspace, but how the town is able to respond to emergencies and how we're able to live up to our required commitments to be part of a regional emergency response team. That puts an additional strain on the town's facilities, and we're currently not meeting our obligations with some of the trailers that we have sitting in the back, as have been pointed out in other meetings. So I don't want to go back over everything. But I do want to share that we have, as we announced at the last meeting, received a $100,000 commitment from a foundation that's based out of Southbridge, and that also acknowledges the regional role that Charlton plays in our emergency response. And we have several other foundations that we're working with right now to look at what level of commitment they may be able to make to the project to support us. And additionally, we have private citizens who've stepped forward and made pledges. Every member of the volunteer group that is on the Capital Campaign Committee has made a personal contribution already. That includes my family, Karen's family, all of the members on the committee. And we've also received other pledges, including we just received another $1,000 pledge from residents today. So those are coming in. These are folks who fully expect to pay taxes to account for some of the financing and whatever's covered in the debt exclusion. Or, however we finance this, we all expect that this will be part of our temporary tax burden as we pay off the debt. And we're still willing to pay more because we know we need it. And there's some common sense involved in the financing that I certainly didn't understand without spending a little more time looking at it. And I appreciate the opportunity to share that information with you.
All right, thank you so much, Noreen. Any other comments from board members or people who have given presentations and want to add a little something else because you just thought of it?
Madam Chairperson?
Yep, Bill?
Just a quick thing, and I mean this with the utmost respect to all the presenters and everyone who put this together. My intention for tonight was we were only going to be discussing how we were going to finance this. I think a lot of people are very much aware of the need, and many are aware of the history of this. I would just ask the board that we get to the actual conversation that we've all known has been coming for almost a year now, of how exactly we're going to ask taxpayers to pay for this.
So Bill, I think there's maybe a miscommunication. We are under the gun, as you know. We have to act now to get this on the ballot for November. Yep. So we are having a full length presentation, so everyone literally is on the same page with what we need to do, and so we can make an informed decision and ask questions now. Per your request, a number of times I know you wanted more information as well. So I think this is a timely discussion and has to happen now, or we're not going to be able to get it done in time to get on the ballot. So if you have, I think they just presented the options to us.
Madam
and
Chair.
Yeah.
No,
David, I'm sorry that was.
I'm going to, with your permission, and thank you. I have to comment. As I mentioned, I'm very concerned right now that this is an open meeting law violation, and I'm not going to, because I feel so strongly, I have to publicly state it because I do not want to be accused of it. We're not posted for this. The posting, and I will read it, is at the board's last meeting. Selectman Borowski stated that the board only has until August 5th, 2020 to put a debt exclusion or not on the ballot for public safety building. It is on the agenda tonight for discussion. Basically, we are posted for this board to have a discussion of whether we want to put a debt exclusion on the ballot or not. Everything that's going on right now, I am greatly concerned was a open meeting law violation.
Well, so having authored
If I can finish.
Yes, go ahead, David. Sure.
I'm in favor of the public safety building committee. I have concerns. One, that we were not posted for what we went through. Two, I'm looking for FinCom and I don't see them here, and I'm hoping that they're here because I don't think we should have this discussion or a vote without FinCom present. If we're going to be talking about money, FinCom had said in our last joint meeting that they had ideas that we could use to lower the amount, and I'm not prepared to vote tonight without having that information from FinCom and the suggestions that they had to lower the amount we asked the voters for. So, and I understand your point with Bill about the timeline. He is correct that we actually could still act at the next meeting and still get it on the ballot. We could also have another meeting, an interim meeting as a workshop to get FinCom involved in this discussion so that we could act on this. But I just personally believe it's important that we hear from the Finance Committee and their suggestions to lower the amount we asked for of the voters.
So just to reiterate, as the author of the agenda, I can tell you this is exactly what the intent was. And this is a culmination, let me finish. This presentation is a culmination of everything that everyone has been looking for, which is a comprehensive presentation that lists all our options out. And then we were told exactly what we need to do and when we need to do it by, and that's how this is unfolding. FinCom supports this. Obviously, we take our marching orders from town meeting voters. We move forward and worked with the finance director and FinCom and the TA. What you have before you, these are our options. Okay, so, and I'll take the heat. I will personally take the heat.
Thank you. I appreciate that because while your intent is, and I don't doubt, genuine, and I know you're sincere, but intent isn't what was posted.
And you already, we already.
I'm just looking at and reading what was actually posted.
And everyone received this.
And that being said, if I may, I know that FinCom supports, and I know everything that went down. And quite frankly, we would not even be having this conversation if it weren't for my vote to hopefully move this along and get us to this point. That being said, I want it as much as anyone for this to happen. But it was not simply that town meeting approved the building, town meeting approved the price. That was true. But the voters at the polls, by landslide fashion, shot down a debt exclusion for that amount of money. And part of my reasoning for moving this along and voting to allow this to continue to get to this point was because the Public Safety Building Committee already made changes to shave $5 or $6 million off. That was stated. The Capital Campaign Committee, we're going to raise $2 to $3 million. Even if we don't get to that point, FinCom stated that they felt that they could shave a significant portion off of the ask of the residents. And they're not here for me to ask that question. So let's say the Capital Campaign Committee raised nothing. And Public Safety shaved nothing off. And now we're asking for the same amount of money. I can't do that. But if the Finance Committee said through existing tax revenue, which was alluded to at our last meeting, they could shave off a significant portion. So we only have to ask the voters for 2/3 what we were asking. That's a significant change that warrants going to the ballot. But going to the ballot for the same building, for the same or more money, no matter how much I believe in it, is just flagrantly ignoring the will of the voters who, by landslide fashion at the polls, said not for that amount of a debt exclusion.
So David, so here's a couple of things. We had all this information. We get this information ahead of time, so we know what we were going to be talking about. That was the time to bring up your concerns, is when you looked over the information. Now I'm not done yet. The other thing is, And again, I will let others talk before I have my 2 cents, because as chair, that's what I should do. But I will say this, I do believe we listen. This makes sense from a public safety point of view. It makes sense from a resident safety point of view. It makes sense from a financial safety, financial point of view. The plans we're voting on are very different. It's a direct result of the vote that was voted down. I'd be right with you if nothing had changed, but everything has changed. We are voting on different plans, different financial plans. We are voting on the plans of the actual building has changed. So this is not, and there's no number attached to the debt exclusion as that we saw the wording.
So to your point, the plans have changed, but the concept hasn't. It's a public safety building. It's a combination of fire and police. So at its core, we're asking for the same thing. We may have changed the plans, but we're asking for the same thing.
Did you?
As
But
far as the
again, I
amount
go back
of
to
the numbers that we were just shown are actually higher, not lower. So to go back and ask for the same type of building for the same or more money, and that is why, with all due respect, I would have expected the finance committee to be here to give their input on how they could shave off a significant portion of that through existing revenue. That alone could justify putting that on the ballot for debt exclusion with the confidence to tell the taxpayers that this is not going to cost you more than 20 or 21 this time, not 28 or 30, and this is how. But I don't see how we're going to do that, and to me, that's a concern.
Donna, do you want to go back and revisit any of these concerns that are highlighted?
Yeah, I don't need to see the proposal. I understand the need, and I understand what the proposal is. To me, this is a conversation about money and asking the taxpayers to understand that we actually do listen to them, and that we know that town meeting voter, me too, right, want this building. But that, was it 5-1, 8-1, whatever it was at the poll said we do too, but not for that debt exclusion. So we have to, it is upon us if we go back with a significantly reduced dollar amount.
David, again, as Donna had
my opinion, so you know where my head is. I would have expected FinCom to be part of this discussion.
FinCom already has appropriated or gave money. It's authorized money to spend because of our orders, the marching orders that we get from the town meeting. But
correct.
I
would like to hear them explain why they said they can get significant revenue from it.
I think that was pre-pandemic. Correct me if I'm wrong, Donna, but
everything's pre-pandemic.
But to sit here and say that nothing has changed couldn't be more wrong. And to go to how I look at this is we are a pass-through. We are asked to put a debt exclusion on, and we should make sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. This is a no regret move because things have changed. The plans have changed. It's not costing us anything to go to the ballot. It's going to cost us big time if we don't put this on the ballot because we're going to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm dealing with facts.
And I appreciate
if we don't do that. So to me, to say that nothing's changed, we have everyone here tonight. Again, if you're really looking at the numbers and had a chance to look and listen, we have different opportunities, and we can still make a good faith effort.
And I appreciate
we spend up to 28.5, and that number's been reduced. And Don, I go back to,
Madam Chair, I appreciate that, and I'll say it again. I'm not lazy. I know what the numbers are. I know what the building is. I know what the changes are. I also know what the voters said at the polls and what those numbers were. I want this building. Don't get me wrong. And I go back to, and you'd be hard pressed to say I don't, since it was my vote that got you here. However, it was upon us to listen to the voters. I know it, you know it, we have our opinions. Our residents also have valuable opinions.
Yeah, and that's right. And we owe it to our residents to allow them to vote.
And we owe them to listen. They already voted.
But
they
David,
voted
okay,
that amount of money.
So again, I don't want to get in an argument.
We put $30 million on a debt exclusion. It's going to lose by 5 or 8-1 again.
You're not listening. That's not what Donna had presented. It's not.
So I would like to then see a limit to, we're not going to put over 20 or $22 million on the debt exclusion.
There's no number attached to the debt exclusion. You don't put a number in.
Right. I would like to see a cap.
That was Donna. Can you go back to your the choices?
Not choices. We have to make a decision on what the debt exclusion would be, and if we want to actually include a vote by this board that this board will not support anything over a certain dollar amount.
And how,
Means it goes to the poll, it goes to the ballot, but this board will agree to vote no at the polls and publicly oppose the actual vote if it goes to the debt exclusion for $28 to $30 million. But that if this board can find a way through a valid business plan and through working with FinCom and existing tax revenue, plus what the building committee can do and what the capital campaign can raise, significantly lower the amount to an agreed upon level, then full speed ahead and we all support it. And we can do it rightfully so and justify it to the voters. But we put this on the ballot, you're right. But we could still come out later and then say, but we agree that we're going to not support this because we could not achieve the debt exclusion limit we wanted to.
Through the chair, would you like me to run through the
yes, please, Andrew, do.
The three
Yes.
options that we had kind of put together?
Again, Andrew, if I may, and you can go through this, but it does not serve any purpose. I know what they were, what the options were. I'm simply asking this board to commit to not supporting. If we go ahead and put this on a debt exclusion, to not support as a board a yes vote at the polls by the residents if it goes over a certain agreed upon level of money being asked for. So any of those ideas, any of those options, as long as they stay below a certain level of funding that we have to ask for, then the board supports it. If it goes above that, the board doesn't. You can't take it off the ballot, but you can certainly say the board no longer supports this because it's gone above the threshold we agreed upon.
Andrew, can you go back to the?
Right. I'll focus on the final portion here that just talks about financials.
Thank you.
Hold on 1 second. All right, can everybody see that screen?
Yep.
Okay. So this outlines a $28.5 million option. You know, the amount that's authorized by town meeting of $28.5, less the amount that's expended within the levy limit, the 1.4, less the donated funds brings it down to 26.9. So 30-year bonds would bring that to the average single-family taxpayer paying about $225 per year over the life of the loan.
So Andrew, if you would please just give us the amounts of the total to be put on a debt exclusions, because the 26.9 is pretty similar to 28.
Right.
It's a $1 million difference.
Right. Right. That is,
Andrew, also, this is an up to number, correct? Isn't this what we all agreed on? This is
I
up to, meaning,
that.
David, let me finish now.
I
Up
understand that,
to,
but
because of the good faith effort, because right now, we don't want to be disingenuous. There's a lot of unknowns until those bid numbers come back, right? We don't have that in our hands yet. So and I'm with you, I agree. We need to do everything moving forward, working with FinCom and everyone else, and continue to fundraise and continue to get creative with ways to fund this with, many different ways. And that's what's been going on. So again, I'll pass it off to Andrew. Go ahead, Andrew.
so just again, this is just additional information relative to that reiterates that it's based on that home, the average single family tax value, if you went for the 40 years, was $207 annually. Combined with the debt with excluded debt, brings it down to a gain of 16.9 cents on the 30-year, a gain of $40.91 on the 40-year. But again, more being expended for interest over the life of the bond. So that's just the maximum. So what if we held $5.5 million under the levy limit? Now, this just basically outlines those same projections, that the debt excluded amount would now be $194.44, essentially $45 being held under the limit, a 53-cent impact debt excluded versus a 13% that would file under, that you'd have to find under the limit. Essentially.
Go ahead, Andrew. Sorry.
Yep. So the debt exclusion would apply to the full project not already bonded or donated. $1.4 million would be held, of that is already held on the levy limit because it's already been bonded and expended. The Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee would need to commit annually to holding the equivalent of that of remaining 4.1 million of the limit during the budget development. So the annual operational budget impact would be $265,412 approximately per year. The issues that you run into are the current operational budget is already tight from the COVID-19 pandemic. You would have to require cuts in future operational costs to support this. And there's a potential that you would downgrade the town's bond rating, which then would increase the future borrowing costs, not only on this project, but also the school. So that's if you held down the amount down to bring it to the number of what it would be for a fire station and communication center only with that police department funding under the levy limit.
Andrew, sorry, is that up on the page right now, or am I just missing it?
I'm sorry.
It's not.
Can you see the PowerPoint presentation?
The page I see has amount authorized by town meeting is 28.5, estimated total debt to be excluded still at 26.9.
Okay.
I'm sorry, and even more specifically, it says page 17. Is mine just lagging, or are other people seeing a different page?
No,
I see a
I'm
different
on
page.
17.
I see a different page. How about everyone else?
I'm on 17.
Yeah. By the way, this was the conversation that I've been looking forward to, just for the record. So I'm glad we're having it.
And just I want to just reiterate to David and all of you actually, we have options, but it's disingenuous to say that we're going to do this for sure. We can put forth a good faith effort to lower this, and that's what the whole capital campaign committee is about. That's why the conversations with FinCom and finance and everyone else is about moving forward. But we can't. We also don't want to cripple the town. We have to be responsible too. So
now, Karen,
all this is on the table. But right now the primary thing is to agree to put it on the ballot because of the time constraints that we're in.
Madam Chair,
Yep.
so no one's disputing the need.
Yep.
And I honestly still don't think that it's actually been heard what I had said or even asked. I didn't need to come back to this. It doesn't answer my question. Nowhere did I ever suggest that we should not do anything without having a hard number cost, which I know we don't have yet. I know we're working hard. I know we're working diligently. I know the committees are, and so is FinCom to get it down. But the reality is right now, because we don't know what it is, all we have are these higher numbers. And my view is I'm not elected as a selectman to do what I want. I'm not elected as a selectman to vote for what I want or what I believe. As a selectman, it's my job to represent the people who actually vote for me to come here. And when they tell me by landslide fashion, I understand what you want, Mr. Singer, but it's not what I want. Then even if it's against what I believe is right, I'm obligated, and that's my core heart belief, to do what the residents are telling me they want, regardless of whether I agree or I shouldn't be here. And I'm going to leave it at that. The bottom line is what I've simply asked for wasn't a hard number. Wasn't to say we're not going to do this without a hard number. What I was asking for was, I know we have a commitment to try and get the number down. And because if we're going to put this on a debt exclusion now without knowing what the number is going to be, then I was simply asking this board to take a vote that if it comes in at those numbers, you can't stop it from going. We've already made the vote. But that this board would agree to say to the public, we had hoped. We had hoped. It is not. And because it is not, and we did listen to you, we are going to say we don't support this at that number. We will be voting no, because it's not what we were trying to do for you. We were trying to honor your will and your wish. And if we don't at least give them that commitment that this board will not support anything over a certain number, if that's what it comes to, then I truly believe no matter what we want, no matter what we believe is right financially or the safety of our community, is still boiled down to nothing more than ignoring the will of the majority of the voters of Charlton. And that, to me, is probably the greatest wrong.
So,
Karen, through you.
yeah, Bill?
So most people know how I feel about this, so I will make my statement just very quick. And because this is the conversation I've literally been looking forward to for months now. After the ballot vote got voted down, that the discussion was amongst not everyone, but there was, I would just say, a consensus among a lot of people that there was agreement that yes, the town meeting voted the 28.5, absolutely yes. And that the voters decided that the funding mechanism of the 28.5, again, I'm just going to use that number for now, the 28.5 was not acceptable. My argument, for lack of a better word, or my discussion point, and I want to be reasonable about this, I really do, is that I don't feel comfortable endorsing any plan that potentially the 28.5 minus the 1.4 is a full debt exclusion. If others come through and say, again, I don't know if I'm quite as far as David is, but if people come up with a suggestion or a plan that says X percent will be funded via the operations budget and or free cash, I am more than willing to have a reasonable conversation. But if the argument was for basically going forward with the joint public safety building, that yes, they agreed to 20.5, but they disagreed with the funding mechanism, by its very nature, in my opinion alone, again, as 1/5, that we have to change the funding mechanism in a significant way. If we do that, I will be more than reasonable and move forward with this. It's just, I have yet to hear anyone make a motion or a proposal that says, here's what I want to do come November. I was the sole dissent on this. So I'm not going to beat that horse. I really want to hear what the other now 4 members feel about this. And I will.
I do too, Bill. So just, let me just to help kind of, I like to simplify, and clarify. We have kind of 2 different things happening here, and I really do understand where you're both coming from. But one, the immediate concern, right now, tonight, we need to vote to put the thing on the ballot. That's kind of that. Now, the discussion, the second part of the discussion that everyone's having about whether we support it or not, we will know, we will have much more information prior to the vote in November. So that can be a conversation, right before the vote in November. I think it's very premature right now because so many things, there's still so many unknowns, and there's still, we may get, who knows, we may get more donations. There's a lot of unknown factors. But the last thing I will say, because I want to open it up to the other members too, is I beg to differ. This to me is not what they voted down. This is a whole new financial plan coming up. The plans themselves have changed as a direct result of us listening to the people. And just the numbers, I think you might have seen in the chat room or whatever, that the vote, it was 860 to 491, which it was a little different than I think what you had originally said, David. But neither here nor there. And I'm going to make one last comment, and I'm opening up to the board members, and then we'll open it up to the public, as I promised. As a select person, I feel like I have a responsibility, yes, to the voters, but for the safety of the people in this town, for the safety of our employees. And at the end, the other thing is the financial. This makes sense financially. If we don't move forward with this, it's going to cost us more. And that's what I was saying when Donna worked out all the numbers. When you really look at this, and remember, we've been there, done this. I feel like I'm in a bad episode of the Twilight Zone. We just keep going back and rehashing and changing, and we get a little bit off the starting line and never much further. And now we're there, we're getting the momentum, and everything I truly believe will fall into place. But I digress, I'm sorry. That's the obligation. I feel like it's about safety. It makes financial sense to do this, and it's a no regret move. So we need to put it on the ballot and continue to have the conversation that we're having about how best to lower that number, because right now it's still an up to amount. So having said that, I would like to see if anyone else on the board right now would like to chime in. I can't. Who is that?
Madam Chair, David, just a quick correction. So to your point, yes. So my original assessment, I knew it was a large number, but the number, it was wrong. So
And it does, yep.
no, the difference was regardless of majority versus 2/3, it was not a close vote. A close vote to me is 25 votes. It lost by 85 votes. It lost by 369 votes. That's almost 400 voters more said no. So I just want to be clear. So that's the exact number as we were just provided on the chat. That's the exact number. That's almost 400 more voters. So not, but that, to me, that's still a landslide. That's a huge difference.
But the thing is, I'm going to turn it over. Donna is raising a hand, so I do want to hear from her. But as I have said like 3 times now, we're proposing different numbers at different plans, financial plans, and that. But Donna,
just so you have, I did not expect the meeting to go this long, and I am going to be leaving for the airport shortly. So I did not plan on this entire presentation, and I had not planned on the time allotment. So shame on me.
Well, I assume. So let me just, Donna, a quick. Did you have something to say?
Yeah, so one of the comments that David made was what has changed since you had the vote in August of 2019. One of the proposals that we had that was on the very first financial page was a comparison between a bond issue and a USDA. What we found out this spring was that the town would be eligible for a competitive loan, which allows you to go out for 40 years. So that you may not have changed the 26.9, but what you've impacted is the amount that it costs the taxpayer every year can get dramatically lowered by having that USDA loan. And we have a very attractive rate that we can lock in on. The other thing that I want to point out, because this is the information to get out to the public, is that you have historically low interest rates right now than we've ever seen, and we can thank the pandemic probably for it being this low for this long. Whether it'll be there in 2 years from now, 4 years from now, when you want to come back to this, just 2 points on that interest rate is going to make a huge difference. The ability to lock in with a USDA loan for 2 years on that rate is going to be huge. Now, we need to apply for that this fall, probably start working on it now. And that's the direction that I need to know is, do you want Andrew and I to work on the application for the USDA? You're not committed to it if you're awarded it, but I think the town's in a prime position for a public safety complex to get that award for a very attractive interest rate.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
I don't think it hurts the board or the town to have them try to get that. Obviously, that to me is the no-brainer part. I would point out again that my concern, I'll put it that way, wasn't about, because I don't believe it was the taxpayers' concern at the polls, those 369 more voters, which means that many that voted for it and another 369. It wasn't about, well, it's this much hit on my bill versus this much hit on my bill. It was the total amount, and that was their issue. So it's like, I don't go to a car salesman and say, hey, I want this car for $20,000. And he says, well, we can do it for $28,000, but it's only this much per month. My response is still, I don't care. I don't want it for $28,000. I want it for 20. No matter what your monthly bill is, this is what I'm willing to pay. And to me, the voters clearly told us this is what they're willing to pay. Whether we do it for this much on their monthly bill or this much on their monthly bill does not change what they said.
The voters, David, the point of order, the voters said that they would support a $28.5 million public safety facility. What they said was, we don't want it funded maybe this way. We don't really know, because again, one other thing that's changed is the outreach and the marketing. And also, I want to point out, it's going to be at a presidential election, which we get thousands of people to come out and vote. So
and I thank you.
We'll get more feedback.
Yes, I thank you for pointing out and clarifying, because we agree. Voters at town meeting approved the building. Voters at town meeting approved the cost. Voters at the polls said yes, but not via debt exclusion. That's the crux of the problem.
And that's what we're fixing. But I know you have to run. So any other, but are we in, so a couple of things, because I know, David, you have to go soon. So, if we feel like.
I got to try to do an airport pickup.
we have to get done. Any other board members want to chime in on this before I open this up? And keep in mind what I originally had said too. You know, there's the action that needs to happen to move forward, you know, giving Donna permission to fill out that particular application, putting this on so it's a done deal because we're running out of time. And I had a conversation with the clerk. I know she wanted the vote, you know, the verbiage and all that, like at least a week before the latest rather. So, and we can continue to have these conversations regarding funding and work together to fund it in different ways, if you will, to get more creative and continue the good work that's been done. So just, I want to be succinct with what we need to get done tonight. So other board members that we haven't heard from before I open this up?
Yeah, through the chair.
Yep.
So a question for Donna. So the average the average homeowner would see an increase of roughly $225. That's
A year on a 30-year bond issue.
okay. And
So
that
on
nothing,
on the USDA issue, it's $194.44 a year.
okay. And but that doesn't take into consideration any the middle school debt roll off or any of that. That's just
No
flat out.
roll-offs. When you look at all of the roll-offs that are happening, you actually have a gain. The taxpayer has a gain by 2026, the first year of no highway facility. There's a gain because you've had 72 cents by FY22 and 86 cents roll off by accumulated roll off by 2026, which is actually less than what you're asking for an exclusion.
Well, that's a very important point that I think the taxpayers need to really understand, and we need to really make sure they understand that.
And thank you for asking the question, Steve. And that's part of moving forward. We're talking about a very aggressive, very comprehensive marketing and publicity. So if the voters understand and have the exact numbers after, you know, well, as close to the date as possible, so they will be informed. But can I ask, Patsy, do you have anything? Because we really, David has to leave, I think, very soon. And it's really critical that we take care of the immediate business if possible about the two items. And if I'm forgetting anything, Andrew, Donna, chime in. Patsy,
yes, to the chair.
Yep.
So are we being asked to vote on whether we're going to bring this to ballot or not? Is that what?
So thank you. That's what we need to do. That's critical because we need to do this. We have to get it to the clerk and we have to move everything forward. So it's that, just to get it out. We can continue this other conversation is my point, as we should, quite honestly. If we didn't, it'd be that we're bad. We absolutely should. And then the other thing is to vote to get Donna to fill out the
So, Madam Chair,
Yes.
may I ask? Right.
Yes.
And I think because I think we all in the end want the same thing, or we hope for the same thing anyway.
I don't know. Yes.
And because it is so important, and I think it's going to be a longer discussion. Could we perhaps schedule and post for another meeting, a special meeting for next week, just for the PSB?
Well, I honestly don't know. I have no issue with that, but I just don't know if we have it. Is there enough time if we posted a meeting on 7/21? Well, I can ask this.
Don't have to make any decision
So let
until
me.
our next official meeting. So if we actually met next week, we would still have plenty of time.
Here.
Yep.
Can I also, I'm sorry. So at this point, I mean, and I wasn't part of any other votes, and you know, I'm kind of walking in. I've been trying to pay a lot of attention, and so at this point, we've spent a good amount of money to bring this to fruition. So we have the set of plans. We know how much it's going to cost, and I'm just talking about facts, not my opinion of it all. And so the big question is, do we want to send this to ballot and give the residents the opportunity, again, to vote, to fund, to use this mechanism to fund the public safety building? So we're not saying, yes, we're going to spend it. We're not saying, yes, we're going to personally support it or support it as a board. The vote is simply to say, we're going to take this set of plans and this amount, and we're going to put it on the ballot. And that's what.
So Patsy, just to clarify, the vote would be what the verbiage for the debt exclusion ballot question to,
Okay.
and vote on that to get
would
that
we have,
done.
and that particular question, we could modify that. I have to look at my paperwork.
No, we can modify everything else. You can't modify the question. You can't put the amount in. It's my understanding from what Donna and everyone had said. Andrew, correct?
If for the board to vote a lower number, it would have to be brought back to town meeting to be lowered. Essentially, the debt exclusion excludes the project as a whole. To fund parts of the project under the levy limit, or kind of piecemeal parts of it under the levy limit, parts above the levy limit, is a budgetary decision that's made on a year-to-year basis.
Yep.
So we're looking for that. And is there, so I'm asking the board members, is if you're getting all this, is there a problem? Does anyone, because we need to put it on the ballot, we need a super majority. And I think it's kind of a no-brainer thing, but I don't know. And then we can continue the discussion on whether we're going to support.
So through the gist, the idea of all this work and all this money and whether it's going to go on the ballot or not is kind of a silly thing. Again, my personal opinions out of this. At the end of the day, we're throwing away all the money that it costs for the plans and all the time if we just simply say, no, it shouldn't go on the ballot. It
Correct.
Seems, and that's at no.
We're losing a lot. We're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that is a fact. And we're also losing a lot of, many people put in much time.
I mean, we're talking about that. I mean, hundreds of thousands. It was 1 point. We're almost at 1.4 for the
everything that was
plans itself.
Yes.
So it's over a few $100,000. We're at the million mark. So again, I'm pretty vocal and everybody knows where I stand, but taking a step back, stopping it from going to the ballot seems not, it's clearly throwing away all of the money that we've already spent. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Am I wrong there?
Do we need a motion to put this on the ballot?
Yeah, well, yeah, but if four of you think, Bill, I don't know where you stand on this, honestly, about putting it on the ballot, but do we think we can take a vote to put this on, or do we have to wait another week?
I think we need to talk through it. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
To put it on the ballot?
Oh, cool. All right. Yeah, so here's two quick things. One, and this is a serious question, and it's going to sound flip, and I don't mean it to seem flip. I'm being dead serious. If the argument we're using to put it on the ballot is that we as a town, or we specifically as Board of Selectmen and FinCom members, decided that it was a good idea to spend 1.4 million so we could move forward, so we could do it in November. I have a couple quick questions, and again, they're going to sound flip, and I promise I don't mean them to be. Does this mean on a go forward that any significant decision we are only going to do during election years because we don't trust the will of the vote in non-election year? Second question, if it does fail in November, and who knows what'll happen? I really have no idea because I thought it was going to pass last year and I was one of its biggest proponents. If it does fail, are we going to bring it back yet again with the same arguments and make subtle differences to the funding mechanism and say, well, you know what? Town meeting passed it. They didn't like the first debt exclusion option. They didn't like the second one, but now we came up with a third one. And since we've already spent a lot of money, we should bring it back again. That's the point that we're making.
If I may, to Mr. Borowski's point, that's pretty much along the lines what I've been asking for, was not put it on the ballot, but public commitments from the members of this board that they would publicly not support anything over a certain amount on a debt.
Right, but I hear you, but we do that tonight.
A public promise to the voters that if it did make it to the polls and it failed again, that this board would promise publicly not to bring this back for 5 years or more. I mean, I think
Well,
Bill's
we
right.
can't
We should have this conversation longer or vote
Right.
now Well,
All right, so to your
Through the
point,
chair, we can't guarantee, I mean, a new board of selectmen can do all sorts of things. So any promises to not do anything for 5 years
Correct,
is,
but the
you know what
majority
I'm
of the
saying?
board does not change yearly.
just remember this, everything that's happened to date has been through because of the existing board of selectmen making the decisions with FinCom, with our
Correct.
finance director, with our TA, with the public safety building committee and others. So I guess what I'm saying to you, I'm looking, can you just tell me, should we vote to put it on the ballot and continue the conversation at the next meeting regarding the funding and how we can,
My vote right now, my vote is no.
what is,
I would
is
rather
the,
continue the conversation for the next meeting and vote then.
can I ask, through the chair, can I ask a question? So what are we specifically voting on? Specifically, what is it just, what
to
is
have
the
Donna
actual?
move, can we at least vote to have Donna move forward with the USDA because that's
Yes.
application, because that's very important.
Yes,
So moved.
yes. Second.
And we only need a majority for this, so move in a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All those, Donna, please put the wording exactly how it should be. Did I?
That's correct.
The motion
Sorry.
was what Donna said about the USDA application. Bingo.
Yes. Thank you. All
And by-
right. All right, so no,
Karen,
hearing no
you must take
discussion. Bill? Where did Bill go? Where did Bill go?
Are we saying, oh, can you guys not see me?
Oh,
No.
yeah, no, I couldn't see you. Okay, Bill,
Oh, sorry.
I hear it, yes or no? I can't hear him.
Mm-mm.
Can you hear him?
No.
All right. Bill?
Sorry. Well, no, I have a question for you. Oh, sir. Oh, for God's sake. Can you hear me now?
It's like a cell phone
Yes.
commercial.
Yes. No.
Sorry.
All right, so why
Bill,
don't
no?
I do this? Well, Bill's working out his, we're in the process of voting. Patsy?
Yes, fill out the application.
Steve?
Yes.
David?
Yes, to fill out the application.
All right. Bill? Thumbs up? That was a yes.
Yeah.
Everyone?
Those are thumbs up.
All right, so the motion passes. It's unanimous. Donna, you're all set now, okay?
Yep.
All right, the other thing, if, Andrew, can we wait till, I'm hearing, I think we want to wait till Tuesday, next Tuesday?
Yeah.
So Karen, we actually have until officially have until our next actual selectors meeting to act. So we have all of next week.
No, we don't. David, I talked to the clerk. We do not.
I was told we had
She-
until,
But, yeah, we have that, but she needs it like the week before. She
Correct.
really was
So
like, I really need that the week before.
correct. So to my point, we actually do have that time, which means we could meet next week, any given day, even if it was Tuesday, Wednesday, or even Thursday, and still have it to her in advance.
So what are the wishes of the board? Am I hearing that, who else is concerned with putting this on the ballot? I'm just talking about the act of putting this on the ballot in November.
Based upon our current conversation, I'm concerned.
And it's only the majority. So Karen,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, through the chair. I honestly believe that we need a fire station. It's dangerous. It's to not have a fire station. Do I 100% believe in this public safety building? I'm not 100% sure. But at this point, we either go for the public safety building or we get nothing. So if I vote no, I don't want it on the ballot, then we get nothing. We absolutely get nothing. And our firefighters live, every day. I mean, I'm sure the majority of us on this call have seen it. It's a disaster. So if we don't put it on the ballot, we're saying, hey, firefighters, whatever we did, whatever the past board voted, whatever the situation, I guess you're out of luck. Not putting on a ballot seems like just throwing away a bunch of money, throwing away everything, and just.
So.
It seems like we're burning down the house, right? And we have no place to move. At least if we put it on the ballot, there's an opportunity to get something. Give the residents a choice to vote. It's better than throwing away all the time and the money that we have. And again, setting aside all the personal beliefs, what should have been done, what could have been done, what I would have done. It isn't about that. It's right now, with all the facts that we have in front of us, the money spent, the plans, the building, all we're saying is, do we want to let the residents, the choice, do we
All right,
want the
so
residents to vote again?
we're gonna-
And I think, yes, I want the residents to vote again.
All right, so
Are we going to vote a third time? If this fails, are we going to allow them to
That's
vote a
not,
third time?
that's not, we have no idea moving. Let's get through this is
No,
what the immediate
that-
concern is.
that-
Bill, that's part of the conversation as we move forward and we see
That is
numbers.
part-
It's premature
the
to say,
That is the heart of the argument for me to saying, do we move forward? Just from a purely, like, just financial, as we talk around, and will a
so
vote.
here's what I'm going to do. Excuse me, I have to do this. I know David has to leave and then Bill's going to talk some more because he's still choppy. I don't know. So David.
Are you ready to vote?
I'm ready to vote, but you're not going to want me to vote tonight.
So, and you know what? I don't want it. We shouldn't rush. Can everyone make a meeting next Tuesday? Physical, maybe we can actually see each other. David, can you Bill, can you be at a meeting next Tuesday?
I should be able to. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, so what I want to do is let David leave because he has to leave.
Yes, I can.
And we'll put this on to vote. And remember, we need the supermajority and we can hear more arguments. But I do, when David leaves, because people are on, I know we're going to hear more from the public and David will be reflected in the minutes. I know, or maybe you can listen to it on your ride to the airport instead of the radio, sorry. So that being said, if we're all in agreement, let's just a consensus, we'll hold off this vote to Tuesday. I have a feeling we'll have other business anyway.
It's like our summer schedule.
Yeah, our summer schedule. All right, so we'll put this on. Andrew, okay? You got that? And meanwhile, now, Bill, why don't you try to talk again because you were really choppy.
Karen, thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Is this any better?
Yes. For
Okay.
me, anyway, yes.
Oh, all right. Again, I'm not trying to be flip when I say this, but if it fails in November, are we going to ask a third time? And because that is of my argument to say, unless it is significantly different from last year, my heart is telling me that we are disrespecting the will of the voters that came prior to. Now, I'm willing to be reasonable on this. For example, I'm not even going to say a hard number, but for example, if we were to say that no more than 85% of the total cost were to be funded by a debt exclusion, I will happily vote that tonight. But that would mean that 15% of the total cost annually, or however you want to break that out, either via free cash or an operating budget or fundraising, Karen, that you and your committee is doing, that will make up that 15%.
Look, I hear you, but Bill, you're pulling stuff out of the air. I mean, we're getting hard numbers tonight presented by the people in the trenches who know what they're doing, and you're just saying, well, I think, and I respect your opinion, but the reality is you're pulling.
What am I pulling up?
We need to talk to see how we can get
exactly there. The assumption was that it varies depending upon what number you're looking at, between $26 and $30 million. If you take 15% of even the high number, that's $4.5 million. If you do that, and all I'm saying is that, look, 15% of that will have to be funded via our operating and or capital, as part of free cash.
And I'm saying, Bill, I get it, and I'm not disagreeing, and I think it's a good conversation to have. But if you're going to use that to not put it on the ballot, it's too premature. We're going to work to get the number down. It's because it's an up to number, and that's the point. Anyway.
So what is the problem then?
Yeah.
So, but what is the problem with adding a percentage, saying that at least 15% will be funded outside of the debt exclusion?
Well, before I agree to any percentage, I want to see some line items and some input from that's what needs to happen as we go down the road. But to Patsy's point, to not put this on, to not put and I'm just trying to be very logical here, dealing with facts, not feelings. It makes absolutely no sense. It's a no regret move to put this on the ballot. It doesn't cost us anything.
This is where you and I want.
But we will lose a lot of money, and then. But anyway, I don't want to beat a dead horse. So I hear you, Bill, and I'm open.
But here is my counter argument. If we put it on the ballot and say, and don't put limits on it, and we say, for example, again, I'm just saying as a conversation piece, because that's really what we're talking around. If we were to fund $28.5 million, what we lose is you're right. We can move forward with that 1.4 million, which, by the way, could be voted down, that we would lose anyway, at which point every single person who spoke in favor of this should take accountability for that. But then second of all, we lose the respect of the people who voted at the ballot last year, who voted this down because they did not want to fund it via that way. So unless we change the way.
I get it. And look, Bill, you're entitled to your opinion, and mine is obviously different. I think we should gain respect.
And that's okay.
We are listening, but all I'm trying to get at is let's move forward. Let's put it on the ballot. But so right now.
We've had 6 months to talk about this, and nobody wanted to talk about it.
We had what? I didn't hear you.
No, sorry. We've had 6 months plus, including our new members, to learn and talk about this, and none of us have talked about it.
I beg your pardon. Yes, we have been talking about it. They've been working. How do you think these numbers came to be behind the scenes, right? Working with, just like what was the task at hand.
The Board of Selectmen, the Board of Selectmen have not discussed it at all. We've had the opportunity to have any type of prelim discussions, and we chose not to. And that's our fault from both our former board. And the reality is that even, granted, I mean, it's not Patsy and Steve's fault because, they've only been here for a few weeks. But the reality is that, in a sense, we are rushing forward to push this on a ballot because we chose not to have a conversation.
I respectfully.
Through the chair, can I just make a clarification?
All right, listen, the chair is talking. I am allowing Donna to speak. Donna, please go.
I just want to make sure that everyone is on the same page. Town meeting is the body that makes the appropriation and authorizes the debt. They authorized 28.5 million. We spent 1.4 and borrowed it. So that is now off the table to be outside the debt exclusion. That is no longer part of the debt exclusion. So now you're at 27.1 is what the debt exclusion is, the max it can be. We have $200,000 worth of donations. That puts you down at 26.9 is what you're looking at. That's the max it can be. So the more that you keep applying stuff, the lower the number gets. And I understand that you want to see that in the wording. It can't be in the wording, but everybody needs to understand. Don't think it's going up to 30 million. It's not. It's going down, not up.
It's going down, and
I'm not looking for any wording. What I'm looking for is a pledge from the Board of Selectmen that that's how we're going to fund it.
I would be, through the chair, I think that if we're gonna make a decision, then those kind of details should be factored in. And if we say that we're gonna drop the 15% from the operating budget and it's gonna go across the board and people are gonna be in that, we're gonna have operating cuts, then I'm fine with that too. I think we're in desperate need of this and we need to make it happen. And if that means that there's, literally we go across the whole town hall and say, everybody's down 15% and that's what you're thinking, Bill, that's fine.
But until we sit down, everyone is again, just pulling a 15% whatever out of the air, whereas all these other numbers are coming in and being justified. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have a conversation like that. We've already said we're showing good faith, and we've again, the capital campaign committee was formed. Don has been revisiting the numbers. FinCom has been talking, and we're all part of the conversation, and we are committed to, as things come in, that amount gets lowered. That we're going to spend on it, right? So we can move forward a little bit tonight. Is there any other? So Steve, you already commented. Patsy, Bill, I would like to now open it up to the public, and please, because I know people want to talk, can we keep it, just a couple of minutes if you want to speak. I would ask you unmute, announce your name and your address. There's got to be someone out there want to speak. No comments?
Karen, this is Noreen.
Yeah.
Yep, Noreen Johnson-Smith. I'm at 136 Dresser Hill Road, and I'm speaking as a voter just to share the comment that I placed in the chat, which is probably not visible to everyone. I don't like to go out and be public about my votes voting record either. I'm sure most people don't, but I will say I voted in favor of the public safety building because I acknowledge we need it. I voted against the debt exclusion the first time around because I didn't feel like the town had done enough exploring about other possible creative financing options. And as a result, I agreed to join the Capital Campaign Committee to put some energy behind that desire to see us do some looking for other options. I feel very confident that we are shaking every tree and approaching every foundation and that we will have success in our fundraising efforts. And I also feel like there is a new, there's been work done on the public safety building side to re-examine the plans and to also make sure that we're taking full advantage of the best financing options available, that we're not just throwing that dollar amount at the taxpayer and saying, great, we're going to just put that in for taxes. With that renewed confidence, I would like the option to vote again on a debt exclusion so that we can move forward with the project and do the homework along the way as the project moves forward to make sure that we are bringing as many other outside funds and options into this project to make it less of a burden on the taxpayer as we go forward. I really appreciate, Patsy, what you offered about not wanting to just throw away the money that we've already invested to move forward on the initial vote, which was 5-1 in favor of a public safety building for the town. And I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thank you, Noreen. Was there someone else who wanted to speak? Steve?
Madam Chair,
Yep.
just a couple of quick points. There's obviously been a lot.
Mention your name and address. You know the routine.
I'm sorry.
That's
Steve Coleman, 150 Berry Corner Road, also one of the co-chairs of the Capital Campaign Committee. There's been a lot of discussion tonight. I'm actually glad that it is carrying over to next week because, to be quite honest, I don't think we're really making a lot of headway or not really productive. I just want to say specifically to the board is that there's been a lot of talk tonight about insulting the voters by bringing back the same package. And I'm sorry if the board feels that way. But even with the changes that have been made up to this point, and I'm confident more changes can be made, you're not bringing back the same package. And if you feel that way, I would just implore you to look at that statement and really just dig into that. Already with the numbers that Mrs. Foglio pointed out tonight, you're bringing back a package that is less money than what was voted on at the ballot that failed. It's already less money. And my last point, and I'm sure I'll have an opportunity to talk about it next week, I think to make the statement that the reason that this failed at the ballot box was because people did not want to bring it to a debt exclusion, I don't think is a fair assessment of other possible reasons of why it was voted down, which include lack of education. I'm not saying there wasn't education, but just in the conversations that I've had, especially with some of the new elected members of the Board of Selectmen, there's information that they didn't know at the polls at the time that they maybe know now. So I think to make the arbitrary statement to say the voters overwhelmingly said that they didn't want to fund this project by debt exclusion, I don't think that's a fair assessment. We have to also acknowledge that there were people behind the scenes intentionally trying to sink the project by passing out false information. There was a lot of negative talk about the building plans. If I had to hear one more thing about the 2 gyms that they wanted to build, I don't know what I would have done. And much of this it was just not true. It wasn't factual information. I've employed Mr. Barton to challenge people head on social media when they are just saying things that are incorrect or just saying things that are inflammatory because maybe they don't personally believe in the project. And I think that has been working, because as we challenge people on social media one-on-one and we give them the right information, miraculously, they go away. So to just say that I've spoken to many people, and Mrs. Johnson is one of them, who voted no for this project because they just didn't have all the information and they just didn't feel that the town was prepared or really had the right answers to the questions. So and I'm not saying that we're going to make up 400 votes by that, but I would just encourage those members of the board who say that the voters didn't want this by debt exclusion. I just ask you to at least think that there's a possibility that there may have been some other reasons why they voted no, just that they didn't want a debt exclusion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yep, thank you. I appreciate it. Any other comments from the public? All right, hearing none. The last thing that I will state is this, and I thank Steve Coleman for reiterating the fact that the plans have changed. I've said that several times tonight, and that's exactly why, regardless of where a person may stand on this project, you should want your right to vote. I mean, because the plans have changed, and who are we? I'm sorry, select board member, but who are we to stand in the way of allowing voters to cast their vote on these new plans? Should we do what Bill has mentioned and Patsy, work to lower the number and raise funds? And yes, that's what we say we're doing. But it's very disingenuous to turn around and say, we're just going to pull this number from the air and we're going to cut it and we're going to cut operating. We've got to do this strategically. We have to be smart about it. So we're not having other departments suffer as well. And we do what's right by the public. But I go back to, once again, this makes sense from a financial point of view. It makes sense from a public safety point of view. It makes sense for what our employees are working in, the working environment. And we've got to stop kicking the can down the road. This particular thing can cost lives. I don't want to be overly dramatic, but the reality is it can. So let's move forward. That's all. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little passionate about it, but that's how I feel. Mr. Barton?
Madam Chair, Rob Barton, 2 Mackenzie Road. I'm just, to sentiment with Steve Coleman's comments, I am just asking for any of the board members or any of the elected officials on this call or any town citizen, if you want information, the information is there. There is plenty of people, unfortunately, that have wrong information, and they continue to give out wrong information. And I think that it pays people's opinions and their feelings on the project because they're getting wrong information. We know of some citizens out there that are doing it. So all I ask for you is, if you get information, or if you're looking to either refute information or gain a better perspective, then just reach out to somebody, Chief Knopf, Chief Maxfield, myself. Just reach out to somebody and try to gather that information. We've heard information, I've refuted claims that, the town of Dudley spent $7 million on their fire station. Why is yours so much more expensive? And there's an answer for that, and I won't go into it tonight, but there's an answer for that, and it's a logical answer. They compared us to another state that Wells, Maine built a public safety facility, and why did their facility cost half as much as what yours is? And there's an answer for that. People may not want to hear the answer because it actually, goes against what they believe, but there's an answer to it. So when you guys, in the next 7 days, and you guys start gathering information and trying to make your decisions, just make sure it's on an informed decision. Reach out, gain some additional information. I can tell you that we will have another estimate coming from the estimator in September, which is our third and final estimate. And then we're going out to bid, as long as we have the payroll vote next Tuesday. So we'll go out to bid, and we'll actually have a contractor bid on the project, and he will tell us exactly what the project is going to cost us. We are just in an estimate mode right now. We have a great team of estimators through Tecton that are doing it, but we're just gaining estimates. So the last bid, the actual bid number from XYZ contractor, will come in 1 week prior to the ballot vote in November. So then we will know from a contractor what he says it will cost us exactly to build this project. And it's just very difficult to decide this. You know, we get these numbers of 30 million and 28 million and 26 million. We have no idea. You know, according to Tecton Architects, they're receiving great numbers from the actual bidders, from the actual general contractors. Because of the COVID-19, people have lost work, so they're looking to sharpen their pencil and make it as low as they possibly can. But all I'm asking is, if you have a question, reach out to me. I have no problem with answering any questions. And if I don't know the answer, then I'll definitely try to find it. My only thing, Madam Chair, is if any of the people have questions specific towards the building, our architect is actually on this call with us right now. So if anybody needed to ask anything, I know it's going to get pushed off to next week, but if somebody had a specific question, Rebecca is on as well.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate the explanation. The other thing, I know it was highlighted in the presentation. I don't know if you listened to it or if you. It was. I think it was, Andrew. Part of your presentation included the timeline, right? The just at the Junetown meeting, you know, there was a citizens petition, right, to that would have, if passed, inevitably pulled the plug on the project. There was an opportunity there, and that failed. So if you want to listen to the voters, again, that most recent vote failed by, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but by 2-1, I think, a little bit more than that. And that's all part of the timeline, which will be, folks will be able to access this video, right, Andrew? So they can go back and look at the slides, or they can actually.
The full presentation wasn't presented. So yep. I will give this to the board members to look over the next week and prior to the discussion.
So I think we're heading in the right direction. We just got to work out some of the finer details. But and anything else or anyone else before we? Did anyone have any questions for the architect or anyone else want to come in?
Lois Shagru, 21 Bracket Hill Road. I would like to see the Board of Selectmen allow us to vote on this come November. I have to agree with Rob and Steve. There was a lot of misinformation. And I would also like to tell the board members, I know that Patsy went through and took a tour of the fire department, but the fire department and police department, my understanding is that the board members or the general public can make an appointment to get, you know, a tour. And I think that will help people understand how necessary this is. This is something that will affect every single person in our town, and those people going through our town, as a matter of fact. So it's very important that we put this on the ballot. And this time, I do feel that more information is out there, and we will continue to put it out there. But we need the chance to do that by getting it on the ballot. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lois. And the last thing I just thought of, Andrew, at one point we had discussed the difference between the 24 million versus, or 22 million versus the 26.9. Was that part, or the numbers, if I have the range right? But how much that would mean for, what are we talking about? Was it $5? Could you just highlight that one piece again? Because that was, I thought that was really interesting.
So the difference with the, sorry. Trying to find the correct information. Can you see the screen here?
Yes. Donna, you don't remember it off the top of your head, do you?
As far as the 5.5 million, is that the number?
No, not the 5. The somewhere around that. It was if we. What is the difference? I mean, we're really talking about, it's just a few dollars, I thought.
Essentially, yeah, I guess this is between two different slides here. So the average single-family tax value, and here's on that based on the 26.9 number. The average single-family tax value would have an annual impact of $225.44. If we went and reduced that overhead by 5.5 million, that would bring that annual impact down to $194.44. So that's how much bringing that 5.5 million under the tax levy would have an impact to the average single-family or average tax bill.
So 190.
It was your very last page, $31 a year for the average homeowner.
So that's $31 a year. That's what we're talking about. Okay.
If you move to just a $23 million project as opposed to the 26.9. But that, I'm gonna warn you, taking that much money out of your operating budget is not going to be worth it, and it can cost you when you go to do a bond rating, that
Right.
they see that you're taking that much out of your operations.
Again,
They're
I just,
gonna
I
have- it's
appreciate
gonna throw
you.
concern.
I appreciate you going back to show the difference, because now people, you know, they have a real number to say this is the difference, and is it worth it? Really. So please remember that number, especially my peers, when we talk about this next week. All right. I think if there aren't any more, is there anyone else? You can unmute yourself. Otherwise, we're going to move on. And I thank everyone for their patience, for their hard work. It's been a lot of work to get to this point, actually, and it hasn't gone unnoticed. So any other comments? None? Okay. So Andrew, we'll definitely have that on the next agenda for the meeting next Tuesday, okay? All right, thank you, folks. We're not done yet, so if you want to stay tuned for the rest of this, you're welcome to. Where are we? We're still under new business. The award of propane and oil bid. Andrew?
Charlton participated in the FY21 joint fuel procurement through Central Mass Regional Planning Commission. You're asked to award the propane contract to AmeriGas Propane for a fixed price not to exceed $1.10 per gallon. An invitation to bid on heating oil was received and opened on July 9, 2020 at 10:30 a.m. 3 bids were received. After review of the bids, you're asked to award the heating oil contract to Charlton Oil Company at a fixed price of $1.58 per gallon, including winter blend. I would recommend the board make the awards as requested.
All right, the wishes of the board. Motion?
So moved.
Scared me for a minute. That everyone left. So we have a motion and a second, and any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those will roll call vote. Patsy?
Aye.
Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes, I'm trying to switch
Okay.
computers too.
Yeah, just so I'm not seeing you, Bill, but obviously you're on there.
Yeah.
All right, so, and I vote aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, Economic Development Commission discussion.
With the EDC remaining largely dormant over the past few years and many of the members either resigning or not seeking reappointment, I believe it would be beneficial to consider reconstituting the EDC to improve the operational efficiency of the commission. I've attached a draft for the board's consideration and discussion.
Board members, I'm assuming you read through this. Do we
Yes.
have a recommendation to adopt?
I don't know if you want to just take this under advisement for right now and discuss at a later time. This is just a first round draft.
I thought it looked pretty good, but I'm going to let the board.
So
Go
through
ahead.
the chair, I'll start. I'm sure Steve wants to chime in on this too. We need an EDC. We haven't had one, an active one or an effective one for a long time. There was a lot of changes, so I absolutely agree. My one question is, so in the past, there's always been a director running, kind of managing things. Andrew, are you taking that piece on? You'll be in charge of minutes. You'll run it. Is that on this proposal? I just don't see, and I'm just using the past as an example. So the former planner, Alan Gordon, he was also the EDC director. He took the minutes. He he did all the presentations, went to the Chamber of Commerce events, and you know, handled all of the members' questions, issues, recommendations. Is that position still kind of available and open, or is that, again, the role? Will you now be that person who will take care of the minutes and the admin piece?
So in the chart, I tried to not kind of direct it to a specific position, and I think that was kind of something I want to bring up for discussion. You know, is that the director position, you know, whether or not a director position, or if it's just a matter of the town administrator, planning director, and building commissioner, and conservation agent, just kind of all working together at service of the board. And if the EDC says, you know, town administrator, we want you to take on the task of taking the minutes, and planning director, you know, we want you to represent the EDC and be a point person for new business. You know, it was kind of an evolving role, but a discussion that I wanted to have to see kind of what your thoughts were on that position, or if it should be a dedicated position of economic development director with another position, or even a separate position itself as economic development director, maybe not even connected with a.
So through the chair, I'm sorry. I think when there's when there's not a head person that kind of, as part of their job duty, they're taking minutes, they're making sure that every meeting is posted, and their sole responsibility, they're responsible to make sure all of those pieces fit. It works better. Now, can we afford it? Is it at the budget? That's another thing. But in my opinion, again, I'm old and I've been on the board forever and ever. I was on the planning board forever, and the planning board got updates. It worked very well. There was a line of communication. Developers were welcomed in. The right people were invited to the meetings versus everybody was involved and over but again, having a lead to kind of make sure that all happens works. And again, I've been very vocal over years about having the planning director play that role. So I'm not kind of, that's where I am. But whether it's the planning director or conservation or whoever is, I think somebody needs to head that up.
Right.
And now with all that conversation.
I mean, I'm sorry, through the chair. You know, I think it's important to have that point person, specifically when there's a new applicant coming to town that they know who to talk to. And you know, that's why I, you know, kind of want to have this conversation. Is, you know, how does the board see this? I think this is something that could be, you know, evolved, you know, and written into the charge.
I think it's very important to have a point person. So that's why, I mean, we're pretty much, in my opinion, starting from scratch with this. There's going to be it's going to take a lot of energy to get it off the ground and get the steam in the engine and get it rolling. I think you need to have a point person.
So
to certainly.
Is this some? I'm sorry, Steve.
No,
I apologize. It was a delay. And anything else, Steve?
No. Hear what I said? No, you
so I would recommend, I think, because we don't have, you know, the TA is not in a rush to have this move forward. David has left us, so maybe we can discuss this at our next meeting. See, our agenda is getting longer. If everyone's in agreement, Patsy, Bill, how do you feel about that?
To the chair, I think we should be in the position to be able to vote at the next meeting, because I was in front of the Board of Selectmen 4 times on reconstituting this EDC over the many years, and kind of getting things together. And just, we have to be careful not to kick this can down the road too much further. So if we could kind of get it in our minds that at the next meeting we're going to make a decision and figure out kind of what we're going to do and be prepared, I would much appreciate. Yeah. I think that it just makes sense to figure out, and then if we need to change the situation, then we change the situation, we modify the situation. But we shouldn't be waiting 3 or 4 more months or
Oh, no.
another month,
No.
even if we don't have to go.
Tuesday, Patsy, till
start it.
Tuesday.
Right, Tuesday. So if we can come to the table on Tuesday and have, and kind of be able to come to a decision, and hopefully come to a decision, if we can put that on the agenda for next week, that's fine.
Yeah, and I want to thank Andrew, because I really, the draft you provided, it really is, it's very comprehensive. You really reworked it. It makes sense. This plan, it looks it's just very lean, very streamlining of the process, right? And I think the business community will be much appreciative of this. And actually, before I make a comment, Bill, I think it's because I'm not seeing your picture here. I keep forgetting about you. Bill, do you want to make a comment before I say anything?
No, I mean, I have no problem with the commission. In fact, I'd even be happy to vote that tonight. I think when we talk around the director, in that aspect of EDC, I think that's a much deeper conversation. But the commission itself, I have zero issue with. So yeah, I have no problem voting tonight or next week, quite frankly.
Yeah, I just, out of I guess, courtesy for up here, I would recommend we just, so Andrew, are you good if we wait till next week, or do you want to?
Yeah, I guess the one thing is, because we have the, a recommended appointment of a planning board member, a conservation commissioner, and assessor, it might be good to just make sure that we don't get any additional comments from them prior to voting.
Okay. And going back, just my 2 cents on, we're talking about someone, a point person or whatever. I mean, typically on some of the committees that I've been on that's been appointed, the committee themselves organizes. They say the chair, you're going to be the chair. We vote you in as chair. You're the point person, and you're going to be the person taking the minutes. So you're the the clerk.
But the amount of there is an admin responsibility. So that point person, that chair, would need to have a staff to type up minutes and to post meetings. You know what I'm saying?
I've been on many. I don't know. I mean, again, we can. It's worth. Well, we can continue the discussion. But my 2 cents is, I've been on committees where people take the minutes, and I'll use the capital campaign committee, the solar committee. We had the chair. We had people doing minutes, submitting things, posting. So I think it's doable. And again, I'm always looking to be, smart financially, I guess. So all things to consider for the next time. All good conversation. Andrew, you look like you had something to say?
Yeah, and I guess, as you were saying, if it is the planning director that takes on that responsibility, we should have that conversation with the planning board to make sure that they're okay with those additional responsibilities being tacked on to the planner. So that was my first.
Okay. All right, so we good to just pass over this till next? We'll put this on. All right, Andrew, please note. I did write it down, but all right, thanks everyone. So next item on the agenda, it would be the Board of Selectmen and Town Administrator Goals and Objectives Workshop discussion. Andrew, you have a memo on this?
So per the board's policy, Board of Selectmen meetings, a Goals and Objectives Workshop shall be held every year after reorganization. It allows the board to still take care of some miscellaneous business that they've historically done in the past, i.e. set up, meeting, vote on IOD approval, etc., and be an informal meeting of the Board of Selectmen with no major policy decisions to be voted on. That the meeting is to be facilitated by the chair or designee or an outside facilitator if determined in advance. And the meeting is to have the town administrator and chairman organize goals and have a follow-up discussion during regular Board of Selectmen meetings to prioritize the goals and designate responsible parties or point person for each goal. In the past, these meetings have been held at the Charlton Community Center at 4 Joseph Hill, and they've been held off Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. So I don't know if we want to have this discussion up next week, but looking for the board's wishes on how to proceed.
I'll look to Steve, Patsy, and Bill. Suggestions?
Knowing all we have going on, I'd recommend we put it off to August.
I agree.
Okay.
I just want to get through the public safety building discussion, and then after that, we can go back to like normalcy.
All right.
Bill, come on, there's no normalcy.
Yeah, good point.
We'll look at the first or third. probably
Nice.
next week or so.
I didn't hear you, Andrew. I'm sorry.
Sorry, we'll look at the first or third meeting in about a week or so,
Okay,
or in August. Sorry.
gotcha. All right, and excellent.
Do we
All
need to
right.
vote on that? No?
We'll just take it.
Yeah, it's just kind of housekeeping. I think we're all at the consensus. We're all on tape saying, yeah, sure, that's not a problem, right? All right. And we still have to come up with the date. We don't have a solid date yet, right? So. All right, old business, town council.
That's where we had it.
All right, so old business, town council, RFP timeline. Andrew, you got a memo for that? You got a memo for everything, right?
Monday, June 29, 2020, I emailed the board the attached draft RFP for town council. If the board approves this RFP, the following are the projected dates for the process. Beginning tomorrow, July 15th, the request for proposals will be issued. On August 19, 2020, proposals will be due by 11 a.m. On August 25th, the Board of Selectmen interviews and a decision could be made that night or any time between then and September 30th, 2020, which would be the effective date of appointment. It would also be posted in combis and sent to attorneys qualified. So, any comments from the board?
What are the board's wishes?
To the chair, I think it's great, awesome job. I usually find 2 or 3 edits in everything I look at, and I didn't, so it's perfect. Good job. And great timeline. I've been thrilled.
Thank you.
Through the chair?
Yep, Bill?
Sorry. Hey, Andrew, this is not a shot at you at all, just so you know. The only concern I have are with the last 2 paragraphs in which we're actually referencing Jim Cosgrove of the law firm Cosgrove and Blatt. I don't know if there's a different way to frame that to basically I'm not sure why we're including Jim in that. Because it almost makes it sound like he's deciding not to continue when the reality is that a majority of the board decided to.
Okay. That's fine. I can remove that paragraph. It was just for reference.
I mean, yeah. I mean, maybe it's just literally like with limited exceptions, town council handles all the town's legal sentences. The town retains special counsel and other legal matters, and then staff members contact town council. But again, it's up to a majority of the board. If they want it as is, yeah, that's fine.
Well, yeah, your suggestion's fine with me, Bill.
Yep.
Steve, Patsy.
To the chair, good. That's fine.
All right, do you need a vote there, Andrew?
So moved.
Those edits.
Okay. Karen, so
Yes.
moved.
Oh, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, so Steve got there before you, Patsy, so, all right.
You can officially have it. It's all yours.
We're getting tired, I know. So, any discussion? I'm hearing none. Steve?
Yes.
Patsy?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Karen? Yes. Okay, so it passes. It's unanimous with the people that are here. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Very much appreciated. Oh, and I know, where are we? BOS, Board of Selectmen policy review. We're going to skip over the capital campaign. Actually, where are we? Old home update, old home day update. So as we said early on, if you missed my announcements, Old Home Day has been canceled. And I think I speak for the board when I say thank you to the people on the committee who has done, they've done a great deal of work, and they work really hard, and their hearts are really into it. So we appreciate the efforts, and I know it was very difficult for them to cancel. And supposedly, I have no doubt it's going to be bigger and better and next year when we actually can have one, right? Fingers crossed. So, and any comments? Anyone? We're all good? Okay, so we'll skip over that. Noreen, are you still on? Steve, are you on? Capital campaign, I know there was.
I see
I'm
Noreen.
still on. Sorry
Oh,
about
Noreen, I know there was a recent, if you could just, there was one update. Again, it's getting late, I'm sorry. I believe we received another donation. If you wouldn't mind just letting everyone know.
Sure, I did mention it earlier, just briefly, that we did receive another $1,000 pledge from a resident family. I don't know, Karen, and perhaps you know if we have permission to share the name, but the names of donors are.
Yes, it's so we, and that's part of when people donate, we have we actually have a web page and they sign a thing saying that the name's going on there. So it's William and Janet Blasius donated.
Yes, so I was just.
Yes, so we're very grateful.
I would just direct people to the website to see the donations, to see the frequently asked questions. If anyone has a question, I know both Steve Coleman and myself are available to respond as best we can. And we're very grateful for the many residents who've contributed, and for those who continue to be working on their pledges now, and those with family foundations who've also been doing some deep dive to consider what they can do to support this project. So thank you to everyone.
Yeah, thank you. And I know you had mentioned, I'm sorry, I didn't remember you mentioning that, the resident donation, but the other thing I think was touched on is the Hyde Foundation, the $100,000 pledge. Again, that's another thing that will unfortunately disappear if we don't put this on ballot, because it was contingent upon that. So just as an FYI. All right, we're almost done.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Noreen. Have a great night. The Board of Selectmen policy review, we don't have anything listed, Andrew, correct? All right. Town administrator report.
I'll go through it briefly, just a few things. So Mass DOT shared streets and spaces funding. It was mentioned at the last meeting that we look at projects. Right now we haven't found any specific projects that fit within the parameters, although we're looking at the improved signage as a potential to at least submit for some grant funding. So that's kind of where we stand on that application. The COVID opening under phase 3. So beginning July 6th, the town hall was finally open to the public with the condition that face masks are required and that social distancing be observed. In-person meetings are being scheduled for the senior center with public participation via Zoom. And so far things have gone pretty well. A few things that we've had to tweak. Senior programming. So with the nice summer weather, the senior center has resumed some of their programming by moving it outdoors. You might have noticed the tent that's been erected on the common. They're using that to do some, try to bring some of the senior center programming back with limited amounts of people. I just want to thank the dedicated staff and volunteers at the senior center for all they've done to keep the senior community connected during this pandemic. And then cybersecurity response plan. This morning, Jeff and I were on a webinar that discussed developing a cyber incident response plan. They did provide some good templates, so I think that we're going to have something to be able to move forward, especially in response to the cyber incident that we had about a year ago. So moving forward with it. So that's all I have for right now.
Thank you, Andrew. So we'll move down to other business unknown at time of posting, and I think it was Andrew. David, who had something, but he left. Anyone else? So we'll put whatever he wants on at the next. Mm-hmm. Andrew, do you remember, do we have to act on anything else?
Nothing else that needs to be acted on in open session.
Okay. Okay, so we are our next meeting announcements. I never thought we'd get here, but here we are. So we're going to have another meeting on 7/21. It's not our regular meeting, it's an additional one. So we'll have that. And then the next regular meeting will be Tuesday, July 28th, 2020 at 6:30. And again, the one that will be on Tuesday, July 21st will also be at 6:30. And then now we will be going into executive session, but I know we have to close this out. And Andrew, you got to let us know about the links, or if we're staying on, or how that's
stay on this. We'll just kick everybody else out.
And I know I'm going to put Bill on the spot because he's so good at this. Bill, do you want to bring us into executive session?
Sure thing, Madam Chairperson, members of the board, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session under MGL Chapter 38, Section 21A, Number 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel and contract negotiations with non-union personnel, Finance Director, Fire Chief, Plan Director. And number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation, VGG, if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, and to reconvene the open session for any other business and to adjourn. My assumption is we will only be adjourning, however.
Okay, and do I have a second?
Second.
All right, so any discussion? No. Okay, roll call vote.
Can we take a 3-minute break in between?
Yes, we'll take a quick recess. Any sugar? Steve?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, Patsy?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
All right, and I vote yes, so we're going to go into executive session now. I want to thank everyone who did join us this evening. Thank you for hanging in there with us. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for just listening, and maybe we'll see you next week. Have a great night.